Good evening. I'd like to call the Timberlane Regional School Board meeting of February 21st, 2019 to order at 6:36. Mrs. Belch, would you call the roll, please?
Brian Boyle.
Here.
Lee Doobie. Kim Farah. Here. Sheila Lowe's.
Here.
Sarah Mockamer. Sean O'Neill.
Here.
Kristen Savage. Sue Sherman. Jennifer Silva. Seated at the board table are Assistant Superintendent Dr. Roxanne Wilson and Student Representative Nick Valhouli. The presence of other district administrators as well as Timberlane Teachers Association officers will be reflected in the meeting minutes.
Okay, thank you. Could all rise, please? Jack, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, let's go. We have some minutes here, people. Oh, good timing, Sue. So we can start here. Looks like we have several minutes here. We start here with the January 23rd regular board meeting minutes.
And at the end of the board meeting minutes, I accidentally stapled the non-public ones too, so they're both together in that packet.
I'll make a motion to approve the January 23rd regular meeting minutes and the January 23rd non-public meetings. I'll second that I have amendment.
Okay, got an amendment there? Yes, ma'am. What do you got?
I guess I'm looking at page 6 of 6.
January 23rd minutes.
6 of 6.
6 of 6.
Okay.
Okay. I want to strike out after, what is it, 4 sentences from the bottom. Dr. Barra. Candidates not currently working at the SAU and someone with more than principal experience. We're gonna cross out everything after that and then start again at Mrs. Savage spoke to.
So
Only because that wasn't the full conversation.
So you'd like what is stated as you agreeing,
Yes.
stating that there's a lack of quality
Right.
candidates in the district. You like the rest of that sentence crossed up? Okay, well, do you want to make it one amendment, or do we do one and then?
Well, just strike the whole sentence, then I'll make that amendment. That is not, it's not an amendment.
Dr. Farah, you're okay with Mrs. Lowe's making that, so the sentence we want withdrawn is, Dr. Farah stated she wanted candidates not currently working at the SAU and someone with more than principal experience, to which Mrs. Lowe's agreed, stating there is a lack of quality candidates in district. We want that struck.
Yeah.
Do we have a second for that amendment?
I'll second that.
Mrs. Savage is making a second. So we're voting on just the amendment? Clear? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? 1. Abstaining? None. So that passes. So we will strike that out. Now we are on amended minutes.
Now I'd like to make a motion to accept the amended minutes.
And we have a motion to accept the amended minutes. We have so now we're on the amended minutes. Anything else you want to change in the minutes? The minutes are on the floor, so. You okay, Shirley? You understand what we're doing?
I'm fine now, yeah.
Okay. All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we have 6, 0, 0. And did you say the non-public ones were attached to there too? All right,
It would have been approved in that last minute, that motion, in the minutes, so they're both in that.
Okay, we're all set. Everybody saw those. Oh, yes, Dr. Farrar made the motion to accept both. Yes, thank you. Catching up. So now we have the special board meeting of the 7th, is that correct? That's where we're at.
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
Motion by Dr. Farah, second by Mr. O'Neill. Comments, questions, corrections? If not, if you're all set? Zero. Thank you for that set. Any others?
There are 2 sets of sealed minutes.
Sealed minutes.
Just take one and pass one along. Is that easier to do it that way?
Sure.
Take this set too. I'll leave you one. Take that. If you-
That's mine?
Yeah, that's yours.
Super. Give you a nice package here. Nice package.
Bring it on
There's your vouchers here. We have 2 sets of sealed minutes for the viewing pleasure. There you go.
So we'll start with the January 16th, when you get that set. Yep.
You gave me 1 set. You just gave me 1.
Oh, you didn't take this set?
That's it.
Could you pass back the?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
Which one do you need, Brian?
Dr. Wilson to the rescue. There you go.
Thank you very much. Which one are we looking at? 16th now?
16th first, if we could. Would you like to set them aside and discuss them later? Or you want to go into non-public right now and do?
No, why don't we do it later?
Yeah, I agree.
Right, so we will put those, if we can, let the minutes show, Kathy, that we're gonna put that set of minutes off to the side and do it at the end when because we want to talk about it in non-public instead of going in non-public and coming back and making everybody have to get up and leave. Okay on that one? Yes? We've consensus that. So put those off to the side, but again, they are sealed, so they're not public for anyone to see. The second set is the 7th of February at 11:26 at night.
I'll make a motion to accept those minutes.
Motion by Dr. Farrar, second by Mr. O'Neill. Comments, questions? Hearing nothing. I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? 6-0-0.
Brought these back, right?
Yes.
Make a motion to unseal these
I was going to say, why are they sealed?
She's going to do it a separate motion. So. Go ahead, Dr. Farrar.
I'm making a motion to unseal these minutes.
Of February 7th. To unseal. Do we have a second on that?
Sean did.
Sean? Okay. Questions, concerns, comments? If not, I'll call for a vote. This is to unseal the February 7th non-public session that started at 11:26. And by the way, ended at 12:22 a.m. on the next day. All those in favor? 6-0-0. So those are on sale, so you don't need to pass those back, right, Kathy?
Correct.
Any more minutes? Did we do them all?
That's it.
Okay. Yes, moving on then. Student representative. Hi, Nick, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm fine.
All right, so starting off, after the issue with the previous floor at Atkinson Academy, they have a brand new, amazing gym floor, and based on the pictures I saw, it looks amazing. So on behalf of the students, thank you to everyone who was involved. It really came out great. Also, recently they had their enrichment day where STEM programs were taught throughout the day, and all the students had an awesome time learning about the new things and participating in great activities, so thank you for that as well. Going back just a bit, on February 7th, the students and teachers at Danville Elementary dressed up like they were 100 years old to celebrate their 100th day at school. All the pictures I saw were pretty hilarious. It's certainly a creative idea, and it was really just looking like a great time. And continuing with costumes, the student council over at Danville also held a Dr. Seuss Spirit Day, which was another great day for the students. And it's a nice way to finish the week in preparation for our long-anticipated break. This week, the students at Pollard School participated in Jump Rope for Heart, and that was always a great event at the school for everyone, so I'm glad they had that opportunity. And so thank you to Pollard for continuing to create and maintain such fun events for all the students. Also, during the month of March, Pollard will be participating in Pennies for Patients, which is a great cause. Sandown North also participated in Jump Rope for Heart, and they also had their annual invention convention, where a ton of kids got to participate. They actually had to switch rooms because so many people participated. So that's a great thing to see, so many bright minds at such a young age. And they were excited to show all their great inventions, and there were some great ones. So I'm excited to see who makes it to States, and hope good luck to them. And also on Valentine's Day, the students there got to invite their grand friends to spend time with them in the morning, which is really sweet. On February 7th at Sandown Central, the kids there got to invite special guests and grandparents to participate in crafts, and I'm excited to say that 180 guests showed up to have a great day with their grandchildren. And we saw that at Pollard, too, with the mass participation in that, so it's really great to see people coming out to see their kids. And going with February being Kindness Month, the teachers there have been emphasizing empathy and kindness to their students, which is huge at a young age. At the middle school, there was a great turnout and a truly amazing rendition of Seussical the Musical, and I couldn't be more happy to see the more than 60 members of the cast put on such an awesome show. The gym classes in the middle school have also began their annual Winter Olympics, so good luck to all the students there and do your best. At the high school, let me start off by saying congrats to our wrestling team for winning the D1 championship. Not that we expected any less, but still, huge congrats. And I'm also excited to talk about this past Sunday, the Timberlane Concert Choir and Chamber Singers had the opportunity and honor to sing 3 traditional Hawaiian hymns at the First Church of Christ in Bradford. I can speak to it personally because I was a part of it. It was a great opportunity. It was a really great service. We got to meet plenty of new people, and I can say this, that I'm very proud of every single member of that group. It was truly a great experience, and thank you to them for taking time out of their day to, not only do a great job singing, but to really be part of something that's meaningful and to so many people, far and close. Also, March 8th is the annual American Songbook Concert at the PAC at 7 p.m. The concert features solos and group pieces of American classics and jazz, so I highly encourage anyone to go check it out. I'm part of it, so in case that influences anyone. March 14th, 15th, and 16th will be the Timberlane Players' performance of Almost Maine, which is looking to be a hilarious and sweet show. And that's it.
Thank you, Nick. Always well done. Break a leg, have a good time doing your music.
Thank you.
We appreciate your enthusiasm for all the things in our district with our great kids. Okay, moving on to delegates and individuals. I see we have 2, and they're numbered, so this is we number them in order of they're received up here at the table. So we're starting with Corinne Martin.
Good evening. So I don't have much prepared this evening a little bit, but I didn't get to say it deliberative. So I'm just kind of flying by the seat of my pants, and I understand time restrictions as well as what can and cannot be said. I called out to citizens in the community to communicate some issues that they feel need to be addressed, but they do not feel comfortable stepping in and communicating themselves. I told them that I do not have a problem stepping in and being a mouthpiece for those who feel void of voice in this district for one of 100 different reasons I'm sure that many of us are aware. Track and field came up, students vaping on school grounds and in buses, media that gets information before and or more in-depth information than parents and staff, use of media to create fear and division in the district, issues with the superintendent following board direction and local control of our superintendent. It was beneficial to have a feeling that they had board members that felt, it was important to feel that they had board members that heard and listened to their constituents. Competitive teacher salaries to ensure employee retention and satisfaction rather than students and teachers vying for positions for their teachers. We can do so much better than what we have been doing. When I moved into this district 5 years ago and made the decision to transfer my children from Andover, Mass, it was not an easy decision. But I made this decision because I felt Timberlane had a good reputation. One of the things that I have learned is that not everything is as you see, and there are things that go on behind closed doors in any given situation. I am also a big fan of shining light into dark places, transparency, and I'm sure many people are a fan of spring cleaning. Things get dark, dusty, musky, stagnant, stale, they need to be overhauled. We clean out refrigerators, we embrace change. There has been a stagnant situation in this district and a disempowerment between Timberlane Regional School District and Board and SAU 55. And I know that I have been yo-yoed and ping-ponged back and forth, and we need to get local control of this. We have frivolous and unscrupulous behavior that starts at the top. We have funding that is inappropriate, in my opinion, going towards legal as
Mrs.
well as
Martin.
payouts to
I don't mean to stop you, but I would just caution you to be careful that you're not making any, I know you understand the rules, so.
I understand, I was
Okay,
just speaking to the current
It's, I'm the
XPS
chair of this
part of-
meeting, and I'm telling you to be, take care, please.
I am.
Thank you, continue.
One of the things that I'm concerned about
Thank you,
is that
continue.
sometimes people are trying to get meetings, they're trying to get things accomplished, and they're having a very challenging time getting anything accomplished. And I know that you as a board are having the same problems. So community members, board members, and staff members are all having similar issues, which is creating, in my opinion, undue stress for SAU employees. It is not fair that some of the SAU employees are needing to deal with some of these things that are taking place, and I think that there's a better use of our funds. And I think that we can make Timberlane great again by paying attention to some of these issues and paying attention to some of these things and forcing and directing control so that we can feel like we are united and we are together. That is all I have to say.
Thank you, Mrs. Martin. Second person up is Mr. Sapir, Jack Sapir.
Mr. Sapir, wow. That was pretty good from the seat of your pants. Thank you, Madam Chair. As you know, as many of you know, because some of you have been selectmen, and you sit here, that when you do something or you say something, you do it as a board. There's no one individual. And I was kind of upset last week at deliberative session 2 weeks ago when Dr. Farah, Madam Chair, suggested that I had allowed the strategic planning committee to lapse. No, if anyone had allowed it to lapse, it would have been the board, because no one individual has control of that. But in actuality, the exact opposite had happened. Once I came on the board after I was appointed, it was actually true that the strategic plan was reestablished. We have a chair sitting right back there at the time that could probably say that. So not only was it wrong to suggest that I, by myself, could have done anything, but it was actually the exact opposite. The strategic, and I was very critical of the strategic plan for many years as I did sit on the board, that not enough was accomplished. So I would love an apology for that misstatement and that misrepresentation of the facts. And that should come from the board, because when one person or speaks, one member or what rep speaks from the board, it actually comes from the board. So with that said, relative to the strategic plan, I have some concerns as to where the strategic plan is going. I believe that a strategic plan should be data-driven. I believe that after that data has all been compiled, it should be analyzed, and then after it's analyzed, conclusions should be driven, and then options should be given to the public. For some reason, with very little data in so far, I've heard I won't mention any names. I've heard a number based on a gut instinct that the bond should be 40 million, then I heard 20 million, then I heard 30 million. I've been told by certain board members there will absolutely be no new construction. I'm not advocating for new construction. This is, for me, this is a process-oriented deal, because whatever decisions that were made, they're long-lasting. And I think we're mistaking strategic planning with general maintenance. I sat on a strategic plan, or many of them actually, with capital investments well over hundreds of millions of dollars. Those committees are typically run by engineers that are extremely disciplined. And the first rule when you walk in and get on one of those committees is if you draw a conclusion, if you try to make a decision, if you try to get consensus on an action plan before all the data is in and it's analyzed, you're asked to leave because it is the data that will drive it. We watched that meeting where Dr. Farah had gone to the bond bank, proactively, suggested 40 million was what she thought and I'm not being critiquing, I'm just making a point here, saying, well, we can back into this number, and then Brian came up with 20 million. When I'm saying, who knows, maybe it could be 10, maybe it could be 5, who knows? But really you need, and I'll use the example of STEM. What the report that you guys did, the outline that you did, it was deeply entrenched in STEM. So just say you go down that road, and I'm using this as an example.
Point of order.
Dr.
3
Farr?
minutes.
I gave Mrs. Martin a little bit more than 3 minutes.
I'll just be another minute.
Jack, you've got maybe another minute or two,
I actually want
please.
to make a motion to we've heard enough of this. It's
I-
been more than the 3 minutes, I'm making it a formal motion.
Second.
I'm not going to recognize the motion. Finish up, Jack.
Please.
Finish up as
So-
a citizen and
So
then move on.
anyways, say you had to put in 10 laboratories for STEM.
Sit
What
down,
you really
2.0.
need to do is understand.
It's not necessary, Sean. Let him finish and then he will be done and we
How
can
many
move
more
on to a
are you
business.
using right now?
Sean, relax,
him
relax.
finish.
We're good.
I'm done here.
Thank you,
I've
Jack.
seen time and time again, just one point of order, time and time again, people allowed more than 3 minutes. Sean, you were allowed close to 12, when you did that little show with
Okay,
the second
okay,
one.
okay, Mr. Sapia,
So,
thank
You know
you.
what? Yeah.
Thank you.
And people on this board knew about the letter prior to that.
Thank you.
Didn't they? Yeah.
Okay, stop.
You know what, I will finish. The bottom line is, all I'm suggesting is that no one should reach a conclusion. Nobody should come up with numbers prior to all the data being accepted by curriculum, like Dr. Wilson had suggested, and then you sit down and you analyze all that, because you cannot afford to make a $30, $40 million mistake. Lawrence High did it when they did the renovations of their old high school. 5 years later, they'd grown out of the high school, and then they had to go build a new high school. That's all I'm suggesting. And the way we're going about this now is backwards. I've done this.
Part of the fortunately, as an elected official, that happens. I don't like it either, and I wish I would say respond privately to him, but I don't want to take any more of this board business up with that kind of thing. Please, please let us move on.
Is that posted at 7 or 7:05?
7:05.
No, it was posted for 7 o'clock.
Okay, so you're good.
It's just on the agenda for 7:05.
So you're good.
So we're going to, if we can, skip around here, go to the public hearing that we need to do, and then go back and rearrange as we're waiting for our legal counsel anyway. So we're going to open this,
There's your public.
yeah,
Make a motion to open that.
open the public hearing at 7:02. Go ahead, Mr. O'Neill.
Make that motion.
I don't think you need one. It's
I
on.
don't think we need one, we're just opening it, but thank you anyway. You can keep your second on there if you want to. So this is Amendment 13, amend Articles of Agreement to weighted voting by petition of Jack Sapir et al. Shall the Timberlane Regional School Board study whether to use weighted voting in its business proceedings? This article is advisory only and non-binding. A majority vote would be required, and it was not recommended by the school board. 5-4-0, is that where we were?
Correct.
Yep.
Regional School Board study whether to use. Ooh, there's an echo.
So,
Go ahead, Mr.
so basically, this article was amended on the floor, deliberative.
Sorry.
So, basically, Jack,
You know what?
So this is,
this is your public hearing.
No, I understand that, but you know what? Well, so, in the spirit of, Sean, I don't come in here to do anything other than to lend.
Jack, please
No,
just
I'm,
to the,
no.
speak to the article, please. You have to speak to the article, Jack.
that's fine. I think it was all said at deliberative session. I think everyone gets my point. I did have a different angle on this tonight relative to what had transpired at the SAU level relative to weighted voting. And all I ask from board members is to be consistent. I do believe that there is, as Dr. Farah said, a philosophy that you should have representation for what you put in. It should be proportionate. And that was my attempt to get some proportionality because, look, this is a very dynamic district. We have towns that have very different challenges, and we really do affect each other disproportionately. So that was my effort. My effort was not to take control one town over another or divide the district. It was really to have representation for what each town puts in, and I believe that if it was fair at the SAU level, which was it was legal and it was your right to do that, and I understand it. I just don't understand the lack of consistency relative to the philosophy, and there is some merit behind that. So that was my point. Hopefully I kept that short enough for you.
Thank you. Do we have any comments from the public who are here before I turn it over to board members? No comments from the public. Back to the board. Dr. Farr, on this article.
Yes, Mr. Sapir spoke to some philosophical bent that I have with regards to weighted voting. I have no philosophy with regards to weighted voting. We adhere to the RSA as written for SAUs for weighted voting. There is no such RSA for school boards.
Thank you. Something else, comments from the board? This is not going to be a back
Oh,
and
you
forth and back and
can't.
forth and back and forth.
Okay, fair enough.
That's going to be, the chairman's decided, won't be back and forth. Anybody else comments? If not, then we will consider this duly heard, and we will close the public hearing at 7:06, I think the clock says. Is that a 6 or a 5? The
It's about to
glare.
be 6.
5.
Six.
Just 6.
turn.
Thank you.
Be on the ballot.
And it will be on the ballot as I
study.
read it, as a study, yep, yep. Can we go on, is it all right with everybody if we go on to the bullying prevention update and the SPED? They're here, and seeing as our lawyer is not, I'd like to, if that's all right with everybody, move into that.
Sue, can I ask one question though, with that advisory to that? It's a question, it's not a statement.
Okay,
It's
quickly.
advisory only. Just say
Yes.
some the planets spin out of control and it passes. Does that mean that you couldn't do that if you, I know you wouldn't, but it doesn't inhibit you from doing that, am I right? So in other words, say it passes, say that warrant passes,
The
and
article
it's
passes.
advisory only.
Point of order, we're gonna go off on a.
No, it was a simple question, a yes or no.
I want to know whether the study, whether the
Now,
study
whether you guys
is,
have the right to, at some point in time, adopt that, if the voters
it's advisory, we
voted
can.
it. Okay, simple.
Okay, if we could then have the bullying prevention, is that all right with everybody? Come on up, Mrs. Roscoe and Mr. Woodworth. They've got a presentation, right?
Well, good evening.
Hi.
We're here this evening as a request to be updated on our bullying information that we've done so far. We took your feedback and the community feedback, and we're here again to share what we have and then also receive feedback as well on what we've done so far, if there are changes you'd like to see. So we're going to actually do a live presentation here. We're going to take you through the website for our viewers as well, so they can see where to find the information. And we already have a technical difficulty. So on the website, we're going to take you to the district website. You go into the No Bully sign. And then we're providing resources to you as a community as well. So this is access to everyone. This is not anything that needs to be entered through a code.
I'm here, I can't tell when things are loaded.
Okay.
So I got a little panicky, my apologies.
So what we have here is the anti-bullying resources. There's the anti-bullying harassment resources, reports on incident and school contact information. We also have the policy and the legal background regarding bullying.
First one.
Yeah, that's. Here you have resources, so all the TPATH information, the Vimeo for parents who weren't able to get out on the night we presented, they can still learn how to bully-proof their child. That information is there, as well as the bullying and harassment. There are also recommended websites that we have from the DOE, as well as national bullying prevention information.
We also have the links to the No Bully initiative who we've partnered with for this school year as well as next school year. So link to their website and some
Can you
of the
just
handouts.
click on one of those, Dan, so we could just, it's a
Anything
simple,
specific?
just the top one, that's fine. It's a simple click, and it brings you to the national website of which we're participating in.
Correct.
Correct.
This program, that we had the TPAF on.
Exactly.
A lot of information there.
So, and some of the resources are also kind of the state recommended resources, linked to the Department of Education and their resource page as well. And obviously this is a fluid website, you know, if there are resources that people feel would be worth adding or would add to the content, you know, we're always happy to vet those and make it even more useful to the public.
And as an example, there's a book list for parents. We've had some requests for what are some books that we can read to our kids or get more information. We did provide some scope and sequence regarding the second step activities, which is part of our social emotional learning curriculum that we use through our counselors in the elementary schools. So,
Judy Bloom on the list.
yes, still there. One of the requests and the feedback that we had requested that's not really covered in the law, but it was something that we felt parents and the board were requesting was an actual form. We really are recommending to the public that they continue with the see something, say something, which is very much the law, that they can call the building level administrators and give them the information. But there was such a need for being more proactive to writing down the form. We have included that. But we are still very strongly recommending that the minute you see something, report it, say something.
Can we see the form?
Sure.
Sure.
So again, just a click, shows the form. Oh, no.
Just showing how easy it is to kind of enter it in, yeah. So,
Your name was gonna show up.
You know, Dan started to type his own.
yeah,
I think that was appropriate for an employee to type his own.
Now, what would be the difference between this form and the JIC form?
Well, the JIC form, this form here is for the community to report on. The JIC form that we have, that's the 7-page bullying form, that's for our administrators to fill out, that's confidential.
that's the actual form they
Right.
fill out as they're doing an investigation.
That would be administrators filling the JIC form.
Is it safe to say this would be the starting point? That
Correct.
somebody would start with these forms?
It's one option for being the starting point.
It's not the
Well,
only
just
option,
to-
but it is an option.
Just to
Correct.
clarify, the law says the report can come in any way, so an email, a written statement, or they can pick up the phone and just report it. A bus driver could say there's been some back and forth with these two kiddos, check into it. We would automatically then take a look at it, and then if there were more pieces, they would report to the building administrator. So you're getting that stream of information to the building level first.
So when would something like this then start the process of a JIC form to be filled out?
That follows a form of now we act and we follow up on it.
And now, what about the reporting back end of that, back to the state? Does that happen?
Great question. Okay, so then what happens is if there's a substantiated case of bullying, the state wants to know, and that comes through our I4C, that's reported.
And how many have we had in the last 12 months?
I could get you that information. Fair to say it's probably less than a handful
Okay.
that are substantiated. There are some that come through and they use the form and it's pure conflict. The training that the building level administrators have had is that they're really looking at acting on all of them, making any report that comes in, and if it's pure conflict, addressing that over time as well. So that information that we receive on the sheets is helpful to us at the building level and then also at the SAU level when we start to look at the trends.
Now, is there an audit process that goes through that, like the state at all? Do they come in and look at all these forms and do an assessment that, what you guys have done to see if it is truly a peer-to-peer issue, or is it, a bullying issue?
At this point, there's not an audit process per se. There's an appeal process that the state would be involved in. But we've had a phone call on one, and basically, we had the information that we needed to provide at that point in time. So there isn't, to answer your question directly, there isn't an audit per se of bullying forms. There is the state-recommended form, which we have for the administrators to fill out, and that's the 7-page form. Then we'd also been asked to provide the policy and the legal background information, so we've cited all of these places again, and they are all easy links. You just click on them and you've got the information. So we hope that we've met the criteria regarding user-friendly, because we had heard that it was very hard to find the information, and I think this makes it a more direct step to get the information that you need. But I would also add that we can be a resource as well for any of that information for families who prefer to talk and discuss than just go to a website.
And so in addition also, just to point out, obviously there's the link on the main page of Timberlane, but there's also on each individual school website a link that under the parenting tab, so that, there's plenty of people that probably had to adjust their children's school, and are looking to get to it under the parents tab. The anti-bullying resources is one of the options, so, and it brings you right to that same page.
So this is on the school district page? Oh, yeah,
This is
you're
the
on
school district page.
So let's go to.
Sure.
Let's just take, okay, Atkinson.
Is that the right one I'm trying
Yeah,
to-
anti-bullying resources.
Okay, this is right here. So-
So we'll just bring you back to them.
Yep.
You said it's on the parents' page, is it on the students? I mean, is there a link there for them? I mean, they're the ones that are more subjected, that if they're looking for the information, why are we just bearing in on parents?
That's a fair question. I suppose it could be listed as
You can take it back and
students
put it in
as-
students too.
as well.
It's a great
I mean-
suggestion,
Just-
actually.
I think
They might be the ones with the questions and
Right.
concerns if something's happening, what to do, who to go to.
Sure.
To understand
like
that
the
maybe
high
they
school,
can
middle
report it
school.
confidentially and
Right.
whatnot. Somebody's, you want them to see something, say something, it might
Right.
not even
Right.
be the bully or the victim, it could be
Right.
That's
somebody
fair.
else that
That's a good
isn't sure
point.
what to do and how to go
Right.
about it, so having that information there for them.
Yep.
So it's the no bullying students, or-
If there's time, do you want an update on our training for the No Bully, the program that we're running? All right, so we have started first with the community. There were a lot of questions there. We had the TPAF, and then we are now in the process of working through training our staff through the March 28th professional development. And then, again, it cycles through in August, new trainees and our para-educators. Our para-educators on the early release day will get a preview of the information that's here, as well as at the building level as the administration is trained. They're also receiving training as well. We did bring copies, if you want to take a look through, just to see what that first. This is just the year one coaching, so we can leave them for your review.
So in addition to the Professional Development Day presentations on the 28th, the No Bully presenters will be here for the 27th and 29th in the individual schools, meeting with the school teams that have been meeting to start to initiate this school social visions, assemble their teams and start to kind of put the pieces together for those future pieces. So again, they're going to do some of the schools the day before the PD day on the 28th, where they're kind of the chief speakers that morning, and a few schools the day after. So, and then the last thing on the agenda for the year is a school peace summit, which will take on a few parts, and we're actually having our phone conference tomorrow to kind of do some of the planning. There's a student-run portion of that. I'm sure it'll be different for each age group. But they'll be in the classrooms, and then there's some school-wide options as well. So we'll be discussing that and starting that planning process tomorrow morning. So,
I think I can speak for the board, I say, I hope that we take advantage of every single thing that this program has to offer our kids and our staff, and our families to feel that they have a way to reach out and address. And
sure.
Brian and Kristen and Sarah and I were at the TPAF presentation. That seems like it was years ago now that we did it. That was, boy, I wish we could do that again and get more parents there.
Sure.
It was a very, very, very good night. I highly recommend that if PTAs would be willing to let that group come. It was inspirational and informational and participatory.
Well, it has taken on interest in the Atkinson Academy. They are going to have that group back
Good.
to present. So some of the parent groups If they weren't able to physically be there that evening, again, we were able to Vimeo it, and then they saw it, and now they want to bring it back. I think the important thing about the instruction that we're giving and the information is that it is not a one-time thing. It's something you have to revisit, and you take in something new every time it's shown. So we've been happy to bring it on.
Sheila, I'm sorry.
First of all, thank you. Because for me, that was what I was looking for. That
Good.
form is what I was looking for. I wanted something that gave all the information to be able to report this
Good.
for a parent. That was exactly what I wanted, so thank you.
You're welcome.
My next question is, so say I'm a parent and my child is having a problem, and I go ahead and call instead of filling out that form. So I call the administrator and I say, look, Johnny's having a problem. Could you look into this for me? Does that call start a JIC form? Or does that just the administrator go and check in and see what's going on and see if they can figure it out without a JIC form being processed, without something in writing?
Well, if it's something that when they, see, one report doesn't just end there. So the story gets longer, the web is woven as you go through. And then the more they hear, it then could easily go into a JIC piece. Or they could say, we've gone through this process on this page, and it's really pure conflict. The better way to go about this is to start to have them maybe in a group, small group, getting along, getting activities done, to work on the behaviors that they saw.
I understand what you're saying.
Yep.
And on the opposite end, I'm thinking, what kind of paper trail is there that this is an ongoing issue? Do you see what I'm saying? Is there a paper
Right.
trail that makes it a constant thing, that it's not going away, that it has to progress?
Well, I think if that's what you want, it's that 7-page form. But I think there are other pieces that are done at the building level to reach students. I mean,
Try to
they're-
avoid that 7-piece form?
well, they don't try to avoid that.
But do you get what I'm
form.
saying, though? Like, to
right.
try
but to be fair and direct, that form guides them through the law.
Right,
And so they're not likely to sway away from it.
right.
Because that helps them go through that decision. Sometimes they're hearing some very uncomfortable information, so when they stay the course, they're able to do it. The sheet that you had recommended, I think, is going to help parents to really write down their thoughts. But within the law, it's really, if you see something, you say something, and
Right.
once it becomes known to the administrator, it needs to be acted on.
Okay. My other, one more?
No,
one
shoot,
more.
yeah,
I got
shoot, no, shoot.
a couple more things. JIC procedures, I'm still looking for them.
Okay, and
They're
those.
not up on the website at all.
Right, so what we did is we have the policy that's been reviewed and approved, and that's as of 2016. We have that form that we use, which is JIC-X, and that's what we follow. So now what we've done is we're formally writing up the procedure, and we can certainly come back and show you that before it goes live, so you
Okay.
see the procedure that's followed. But in all honesty, if you go through JIC-X, which is the form that the administrators use, that's the process.
But you're going to put that up on the website, too? then?
Correct. We'll bring it, procedurally, we'll follow the process that we have and vet it that way.
And you're gonna make that more user-friendly. So it's more understandable than just JIC, because JIC can get very confusing for people.
Yeah, more than just
Well,
the
it's
part.
6
You're gonna break-
pages,
You're gonna
right?
break
Take
it
out
down
some
into
of
some
the-
very plain
Right.
language.
Well, the procedure just lines it up.
Right.
Here's what's done. And I think that will speak to what you're really looking for. The policy, JIC policy, went through our legal team, and so that's been vetted out. But I certainly hear what you're saying. If a parent just wants to know, what do I do? That's the
What's-
piece. So that's the reason for your form. But again, some parents may not want to fill out the form. I'll just call, because it's an upsetting
Right.
situation, right?
Correct.
But I think that the use of that form also guides them through that. And then the JIC form that we have, the form that we use in terms of JIC-X is actually, at building level administrator would use that. That's confidential. That's not something that's shared and goes around. So, but we felt giving you an empty one to really look at, you could see
Right.
what that procedure
Correct.
is. Because it gives a timeline and a guide for the number of days too, so you have that.
Can I just clarify, Sheila, I just want to clarify something.
you said if a parent calls and says there's concerns, every time a parent calls, it's easier to talk through the situation than see it in a form.
Right.
We do encourage parents to call.
Right.
The form is not the only thing that will initiate a bullying report. But I want to make it clear that we only do a bullying investigation if it's truly a bullying report.
Correct.
If it's a parent calling and saying they have an issue or a concern, or they're having a problem with someone on the recess, that's not always talked about as a bullying situation. It's more like student conflict. So I just want to be clear that form that you saw, that JICK is what I usually say. I don't usually say JIC. But anyway, when I see that, to me, that is a formal response because it's in law that's what we must do for a bullying report.
Correct.
Okay.
But my thing is, I guess what I'm trying to get across is if it's a repeated habit, repeated thing it's going on and it's going on and it's going on and it's going on.
And then there are times that it
that become?
It could be escalated.
Right.
Right.
So that's what I'm saying. I'm
yeah.
looking for some kind of a record, some kind of a
Well, that's
Trail.
kind of what I was gonna hop on.
trail, something that, you could, look at, how many kids are in a school? You could forget very easily, you talked to somebody, or you had this, so, do you get what I'm saying? It might, and then it's coming back again, and it's coming back again.
Most administrators, in my opinion,
Know all their kids, I know, but
they keep records of
I
phone calls.
can't remember what I had for breakfast, so that's why I'm asking.
Because of that situation, they're very diligent
Right.
about keeping those records, and they'll bring it up. Some of these are logged in under,
That's what I
Power
guess I'm
School
asking,
information.
is there a trail somewhere that we have?
well, administrators.
Well, the administrator has, is what I mean, not me, but the administrator, the school has, so that they can see a trend, or if something's continuing,
They have
or.
that.
Yes.
Yeah, they do.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know, because I'm sitting on this side of it, so,
Right.
go ahead.
So a trail like that was kept in the administrator's, it's not in the student's record, it's not. I mean, so there's no way for, if an administrator leaves, or for another administrator to come in if that administrator's out on leave or whatnot, and to look and say, oh, we're having a problem with Johnny right now.
Right.
Oh, gee, no, Johnny's record's clean, because they don't have access to those other records. So is there some central place where this information can be accessed for that purpose? You have you have a comment?
No, just.
Oh, you're just not, okay. I
Yeah.
mean, so,
The things that are deemed to be in the discipline section of Power School are put in there, but not the details of everything.
okay.
So there is that record.
Okay.
And typically, when kids move from school to school, that necessarily doesn't follow them. We like to have a clean start every time they come
Right.
into a school. So, sometimes conversations between guidance counselors can say, hey, heads up, we need to be aware of this situation, but most of the time, that goes into a Power School discipline. I don't know what it's called, when they insert the
Log entry.
that login entry.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but Mrs. Mrs. Savage makes a good point. So I'm the principal, and I have kept my files on this particular child, and I go out on maternity leave. And someone is covering for me. Will that covering for me individual have access to that file so they can go back and say, we've got some stuff on this child already, particularly if it's someone who's come in from, come in from another school to cover for me, or?
Typically, within the process, you're not working with just one administrator. So when you say, would the file be opened? So the 7-page bullying form that we're using, that's confidential.
Right.
So an administrator would transfer, like sub-plans,
Right.
information about, Johnny can't sit with Johnny 1, can't sit with
Right.
Johnny 2, that kind of thing. So there is information. They do transition that information as well to say, these two students have a history. Don't place them in the same group or the same team. Have them have a new opportunity that's fresh. So the information is relayed. It's not relayed per se in writing.
Right.
But there is a communication, and oftentimes that'll happen in meetings when they're making changes for students, for whatever reason.
Guidance counselors have a lot of that information
Right.
as well.
Right.
So my part two to this was to follow up on what Sean was asking before, and I think Sheila was kind of hinting at. That's the informational piece, but what about the statistical piece? I mean, again, I'm sure you get a million phone calls a day, or we understand that, but at what point, when something rises to a level that you're going to look at it beyond just a quick, okay, thanks for the heads up, we're gonna keep an eye on it, as opposed to now we need to start investigating it and going down that route, and then eventually it just determines to be peer situation, or you do get to the JIC form, or you,
Yep.
are we keeping statistics on that, so we know we get 300 complaints, at this school, just from, and not so much complaints, but reports, phone
Right.
calls, concerns.
Right.
Out of that, from that 300, a third of them are dismissed as just something,
Right.
a minor conflict, the next rises to this level, and these many rise to a JIC form that then, as you say, a handful, which,
Right.
what's a handful? I mean, are we talking 4 or 5, are we talking?
I
mean,
would
a
say in the
percentage?
that complaints that come with substantiating bullying are addressed. The records are, that information is kept at the building level, and then we're collecting that information so that we can see the trends. So it's part of the reason why no bullies here, because part of the trends we were seeing is the community-wide, we could have a situation, and for every parent that was involved, there was a different way to remediate it. And then we had a district that had a very strong stance in terms of helping students to learn from their behaviors. So, I mean, that's something, if you want us to look deeper into that and make a presentation, we're not opposed to that.
I'd like to see some statistics,
Sure.
Pep, only because then it guides where we're going and what we're
Yep.
doing, and is the program targeting what we need to target?
Is it
Whereas if we're
working?
having
Is
more
it-
peer conflict, let's start gearing, concentration towards that. If we are rising to bullying, what are the reasons for the bullying? I mean, where are we getting at? Is it gender situations? Is it sexual orientation? I mean, things of
Okay.
that nature.
Yep.
Because that's gonna help us decide what programs to bring in, as opposed to just a random, we have a handful, because
And to
that's
expand on your
problematic
point,
to
we
me.
don't even know the volume of this within an order of magnitude. We don't know if it's, 5 or 50.
What's our base?
And what I
What's
would
the baseline?
like to recommend is that part of the superintendent's monthly report to the board actually has a summary of this data. How many of these forms were filled on out? How many JIC forms were filled on out? And then you can also get into categorizing them into peer conflict, resolved, all that kind of stuff.
Right.
But we have nothing right now. We just know that there's an issue and we have people on it.
And you have such an extreme with some people, Timberlane's got a huge bullying problem, on the other side, you say we don't, so it would just be nice to have some information to kind of, where are we really at? Because one person has one issue, Timberlane's got a huge bullying problem. Somebody never sees it, well, no, there's no I mean,
Yeah.
we're not blind, I mean, there's definitely things that happen in every school. It's
Right.
not, we're not exempt from anything, but,
And we have kids to protect.
it's
We have
just a
children we
matter of
need to
having an
protect.
idea of how big is the issue, or how small is the issue, and what do the issues really stem from? And how can we best help the students and the parents, whether it be through education or
Right.
bringing in different programs for that purpose.
It's like
So-
a whole holistic, try to figure out exactly where everything is.
Yeah, I mean,
Get the right stuff in.
I
Help
think
our
this
kids.
program that we've brought in is a step in the
I absolutely agree.
proactive steps.
I agree.
And all the way down to our preschool children. So they understand kindness, and they understand compassion, and they understand empathy, and they understand words heard, and actions heard, and
Well, I really would like to congratulate you both on what you've
Thank
come
you.
back with so far, because you hit on a lot of things that we asked for, and thank you.
You're welcome.
I agree with that too.
I agree.
so we've given you a few more things that perhaps you'd be willing to bring back.
Sure.
Answer for us, even if it's in an executive summary
Okay.
kind of form, that would be fine, unless you'd like to spend another evening here with us.
Whenever you'll have us.
When, can we put a date on, like, when we can expect that?
Thank you, that's what I was gonna say. If you want monthly reports, do you want it for the final of the month or the beginning of the month? Is
At
that-
least this is my philosophy, is that, I mean, monthly might not be the right frequency, it might be quarterly. I don't know, it's just that right now, I believe that nobody on this board can come and say, what's the magnitude of this problem
Yeah.
with plus or minus an order of magnitude error?
Right,
I don't think you can put a date on it until we know the baseline numbers, what I'm gonna call baseline numbers.
Right.
We may see the numbers and be like, whoa,
yep,
we wanna see this
That's
monthly.
true.
yep.
We may see it and say, oh,
Well, we
okay.
could start monthly, and that'll give you some baseline, and if you wanna see it more,
Let's do monthly, let's do
Yeah.
the end of the month. all right?
okay.
I mean, it's, yeah, you know, we're at the end of the month now, so.
But I just think that this is, it's good stuff. Thank you.
Should we start with, I'm just thinking February, a 3-week, whatever you want, but if that's,
I mean, maybe you could do the January and February as one dump to the board, and then, start next time with
Okay.
March.
Or why don't we just say our,
we'll give
can't-
you
for our
some.
first April
Get
meeting
data
to have a report.
2
and
months
then-
to 1
does that
month.
make
Yeah,
sense? Give 'em a
yeah.
month.
That's misleading data.
Would it be too much to compile the past 12 months' worth of data and break it out by month? Is
You
that,
can take a look at that, yeah, I mean, whatever you'd like to see, I mean, what's
Prior
useful
to
for
the
you
program,
is
Yeah.
gonna,
Not that we weren't
yeah.
doing anything before, because we were.
Well,
but-
Oh,
It,
yeah.
it does a couple things, right? It gives us a trend over the past 12 months, and we know when the program was implemented. It helps gauge the efficacy of the program.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's just
start
barely
with
started.
September.
How about we start with September,
Sure, September.
this school year instead of a year?
Sounds good.
That's me.
Anything else for these charming people?
Are we doing the sped trend report now
I
or
was
not?
just gonna ask the
And
board
this way she
that.
can go.
It's gonna be very short.
We would let the sped trend continue, and then we could, let these people go home for the evening, all right? And then we're gonna go back to our default,
Yes.
all right?
Madam Chair, if I could, we also have a school board policy scheduled. I am perfectly willing to stay for that.
I'd like you to be here for that as well. Maybe we could do that. It's at least that one policy that we had asked for information on.
Okay.
But if it's too much, I
No,
am
I don't
willing
want
to
you to have
stay.
to sit
I
here till-
understand.
I don't want you to sit here.
All right, fair. Okay, so the update that you asked for regarding the sped trend report, the history of Timberlane, this is the first time that it's been done. The information has been provided to NESDEC, and they are going to turn around and give us that information. I would be able to report the specifics for Timberlane at a March meeting. So that is ready to go. I believe in your packet you have the information that has been provided. We will take a look at it one more time and vet out the numbers and the pieces to it, so that it is a finished report for you. But I am certainly happy to answer any questions you might have at this point.
Dr. Farr?
One thing I'd like to know on question 6, and I doubt that you will know this off the top of your head. I would like to know what account codes those include.
Okay, we can get that for
Please.
you.
Account codes for all the years, kiddo, or just?
Well, it should be the same account
One
codes.
account code, yeah.
These are expenditures for
Yep.
outside placements, and was looking at the budget and I can't figure out where those,
So we'll take the
how
codes.
that number came out, because
Okay.
it doesn't work on the current budget.
Okay. The current budget, though, is an estimate, right? Because we haven't gotten through that year. So the last year, 2018, 2019 is an estimate, because we're not through that. But
We're
the
in that
others
year,
should go
But we
as.
have an estimated budget number.
Correct.
But that's, I'm not, the two numbers aren't matching up.
All right, so let's get the account
So I'm
code.
I'd like the account codes for those.
Codes.
And I'd also, you mentioned you're gonna check this again. When I look at numbers 2 and 3 here, from 17-18 to 18-19, the number of IEPs total is down by 80, 42 in pre-K through 8, and 38 in 9 through 12. Our expenditures in line 3 in sped are up $1 million, but our I assume that those expenditures in line 3 are related to the IEPs in line 2. Is that correct?
Yes.
So we're down 80 IEPs, but we're up $1 million.
Because the needs of the students are that expensive.
Well, that would mean that you would,
Do you want more information with that, Dr.
yeah, I want
Farah?
more information.
Okay.
It's a little, and on that, along that same line, on 5 and 6, on the next page,
Yep.
we're up 2 out-of-district placements. We went from 24 to 26, and the estimated budget is up 520,000. So that means that those placements are essentially costing us at least 200,000 apiece.
With related services as well.
Okay. And we keep, it looks like we have a very steep increase in out-district placements over the last 5 years. Maybe when that report comes back, we can have,
Yeah, I think
Some
it's gonna lend
explanation.
itself to a lot more conversation. I can
yes.
say that for you.
Yeah, well, and that was why I wanted to
Right.
see this.
Fair.
This is one of the major drivers in the budgetary
Yes, it is.
increases. And it would be nice if we'd be able to project this out, which, with as much data as we have, we should be able to get some idea.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else specific questions regarding the report? So are we gonna expect you back or have some more stuff later on, or
In March, I can come as early as March, probably the last meeting of the month,
last meeting in March?
your meeting.
Because this will
First
go
one
to,
in April.
correct me if I'm wrong, but this will go to NASDAQ, and what we'll see, just like we do with our own enrollments, we'll see how we're trending in comparison to other.
Yeah.
Right. It's important information to have. It is.
I thought it was. I've been trying to get it for over a year. I appreciate the fact that we're finally got
Just
these
is done, and now we're doing
7
it.
questions answered. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Seriously, I'm not being,
Should not be
I get it.
I've been
facetious.
trying to
I
get this
get
a
it.
long time.
Thank you.
Okay, that's good.
I've seen some of these reports from other districts, but I don't think there's a comparison. And we can double check, I'm not sure.
No, I think you're right. It's just gonna,
It's just gonna show our information, our data,
comparisons.
not in comparison to anyone else. So,
right.
well, okay, I just wanted to
You're right.
clarify.
No, it's not, but it is gonna show, it's gonna show a trend over time, which is,
Yeah.
I think, important.
And it will elicit 100 questions,
Yes, it
because
will.
this is what the data does. And so some of the questions we can answer pretty easily, some are gonna be tough to answer because it's confidential information. So I think if we get to that situation or that point in time, you can, determine how much you can share.
Right.
Because we can't identify, especially some of the students who are out of district, who might be of high cost,
Well,
so.
to counter that, Dr. Wilson, I have seen line by line out-of-district placements in location with student names stripped off. The board should have access to that, and I've had access to it previously. So I don't think there's.
I was talking about in the public arena here.
No, not in the public arena, but I'm talking about the
Okay.
board should have access. No, I agree, obviously not public, but the board should have access to that by student, without names, obviously.
Okay.
Anything else? Then we thank you.
You want
Do you
policy?
want to do the policy while we're right here?
Policy.
It's,
JLCE.
it's the
JLCE.
policy.
First aid.
So if we
Oh,
go
okay.
to our policy book, it's JLCE, correct? And we-
Number 4.
Number
Number 4.
Yeah. And you remember in our discussion, we had put this one kind of back because we were hoping for some information there. And I think I had said it would be great to have Mrs. Rasco, perhaps a lead nurse, perhaps a EMT, to just give us that kind of information that we're not privy to here. So I didn't know if that looks like the school nurse, head lead nurse has given you an executive summary, and it looks like the fire department has as well. Do you wanna put this on the floor for discussion? It's in the
it's part of
packet,
it.
it's
Okay.
in
Oh,
your,
here it is.
policy
Policy
packet.
is, yep.
See that?
Yeah, and you'll see the executive summary written and the EMT's information, the fire department's information as well there. And I think, Mrs. Rasko, you have a recommendation?
I do.
The board hasn't seen these two summaries, so.
No, we
Okay.
haven't,
If-
sorry.
Right, that's
If
all
we
right.
could take a few minutes, be allowed to
Absolutely.
have a few minutes to read
Absolutely.
that.
To date, have we ever had an incident with this, where the need for one to be administered?
In the schools,
In the school or any jurisdiction where this policy, where this discussion would entail?
Suzanne, no.
Not that I know of.
No?
So I'm sorry, I missed a little here. So are we looking to, oh, I see. So we're trying to decide whether or not to strike on page 2 of 3 of this policy, the section that starts with naloxone, Narcan, and other opioid antagonists.
We're looking, the request is to add that.
If I could
We're
just,
looking at, well, okay, the request is to add that. I'm not in favor of adding that.
Nor am I.
No, especially after
remember
reading
that,
the
right,
the
right.
summaries.
Right. And that's why I thought the summaries would be important. Mrs. Rasko certainly has her recommendation as well, but you can see from both of these recommendations where they're leaning towards, trying to give you facts there, and a budget impact as well.
Well,
It's not just a simple, let's do it kind of thing.
So, I guess I would make a motion to accept policy JLCE.
no, don't we want to send it
With,
back?
with the striking of page 2, that the paragraph regarding naloxone and Narcan. Because this is
The
a second
italics.
read,
This is, yes, this was for second read.
so I'm making a motion to adopt it without that paragraph.
Paragraphs.
Well.
The whole section.
The newly added
The
section. on
newly
page
added
two.
section on that, on
Mrs.
page
Rasko,
2.
something to add, so we'll put it on the floor, Dr. Farrell's motion is to
Second it.
accept, but I don't want to have a chance for Mrs. Rasko. Sarah, you'll second, and go ahead, Susan.
so the reason why this came before you and has been through the policy committee is because the New Hampshire School Board was forced by many districts to give an advisory. So the wording that you see there is an advisory from the New Hampshire School Board. Under your direction as the board, you had asked for more feedback, and I would like to publicly thank Captain Scott Vazina for his information, because I feel he gave you a very objective, factual piece to really make a decision. My recommendation is that we still continue with our emergency protocol. And the other piece is that if you wanted to take a look at it and have us watch it more closely, we could always come back for an amendment. But I would really appreciate some form of this policy being passed, because it gives us the guidance we need in order to do our job.
Any questions of Sue? So you're satisfied with our motion?
I'm very comfortable with that.
Hearing no other comments, unless there's another comment, we're doing just this particular policy right now. All those in favor of accepting
The policy minus the paragraph?
Dr. Farr, yeah, I did finish the sentence, Dr. Farr's motion to remove the Narcan information on the back of page 2 of 3, and to move the policy on as now a policy. Yes, we're good with that? All those in favor? 8-0-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you very
And
much.
please thank the lead nurse as well as Captain Bazina for that work. We appreciate that effort.
Thank you, Dan, thank you, Susan.
Thank you very much. Okay, now, we want to go back to, if we could, our default budget action, and we do have our attorney. Attorney O'Shaughnessy is with us. Mr. O'Shaughnessy, you want to come to the table and join us?
You want one? Should we have one?
There you go. Try and get to it.
Just to make you talk?
In trying to include everything that we might need or want to see. There's a stapled, I believe, packet, correct, of everything?
Yes.
And we want to probably zero in on 1, 2, 3, is it page 4 that goes landscape?
I think we need to give Jim a copy of this one. No, it's not page 12.
Yeah, it's page 4.
You can file a right to know tomorrow.
Hey, please, stop. Let's not have a back and forth. Just continue.
So,
Okay. Do you want me to?
All right, I just wanted to make sure Mr. O'Shaughnessy had what he did in front of him. Everybody else has a copy. Is there one in Jen's packet? Can I borrow hers?
you sure can.
I gave it to Mr. O'Shaughnessy. You didn't make any extra copies, did you? That's fine.
Should be towards the front.
Here we go.
I'll give it back to her. Remind me to put it in her packet afterwards. All right. Dr. Farr, are you ready, or do you want to hear from Mr. O'Shaughnessy?
I'm ready.
Okay. Then the floor is open.
Okay. So what you have in your packet here are 3 documents. The cover is the MSDS that I've revised pending this vote, should it pass, so that it is ready. As you know, we had to defend the default budget in court. The judge is waiting for us to essentially clean up a motion that was made that was not clear to the public as to what happened with changes in lines. So the second document is the same document that you had before, essentially, on the January 23rd meeting, that shows changes in the default budget that were being made. There's one change in here that wasn't included in the original one that we did on the 23rd, and that's to the 100-1200 line on special programs.
100, 1200, yep.
That line should be $18,000. That was inadvertently zeroed out in the default budget when we voted it last time. So this document now reflects that. So let me I'm going to make a new motion regarding changes to the default budget that are reflective of this document. And just so everybody is clear for the public viewing, on the 112 line on salaries for teachers, the default budget is going to reflect a decrease from 16,184,469 to 15,838,053. And the explanation is included on the MSDS. It has to do with reductions in contractual obligations as well as a reduction in staff. The line 114, educational assistance, is being raised from 1,241,401 to 1,286,430. That is due to increases in contractual obligations, as noted, and collective bargaining agreements. Line 115 is being raised from 29,372 up to 31,202. That is also due to increases in contractual obligations. Line 738 was decreased from 114,739 down to 92,500 for a decrease of 122,239. That is due to information reduction in contractual obligations, CIP items, and one-time expenditures, and we have referenced the November 8th Budget Committee meeting. As I said, line 100, 643, special programs, that line is increasing now to 18,000. And the function code on the SAU 55 budget 2320, that line was decreased from 1,641,692.
Keith, hold on a second. Where did you just jump to it?
Yeah, where'd you go?
Jumped way ahead.
No, I didn't.
She's going off of this, Jim.
The SAU budget.
She's not going down the
I'm not
actual
going
grade.
down the whole budget.
Sure.
I'm going down
Oh, the highlights.
the highlights from the January 23rd. I'm
Sure.
remaking the motion for the 23rd.
So you're making this, and just to be clear, you're referencing the MSDS explanation of reasons for reductions, increases in one-time appropriations.
Correct.
Okay.
As well as our spreadsheet, as
And
well as the worksheet.
The spreadsheet, which is the longer document,
Yep.
is a corollary to this.
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. So the SAU budget was decreased, which reflects a decrease in our portion by $52,367. Regular transportation lines, and this was clear on the last motion, have been increased to reflect the same numbers as in the proposed budget. In all cases, there were increases except for athletic transportation, let's see, 1, 2, 3, which decreased by $7,075.
Vocational.
And there's an explanation for that somewhere.
Is that the athletic transport or the vocational transport?
I
think it's
see
athletic.
I have to go back and
It's athletic,
see.
see.
Oh, yeah, I'm with you now.
It's athletic.
It
They're above.
clicks up a tad
Yeah.
bit,
Yeah.
yep.
There's a reduction in contractual obligations, consolidations of bus services. Matches the proposed 1920 budget. So there's an increase reflective of the 2721 line. Regular transportation. I don't know, do I need to go through every single line? We've already done this once. The total increase for the
again.
transportation lines in the default budget is $421,958. And then in support services, there were adjustments made. There's one error on this document, so I'm now looking at the 210. The default number for that should be $10,221,590. $10,221,587.
So it should say 90?
590. So that 210 reflects an increase of 333,159 in the default budget. The FICA is 220. That represents a decrease of $69,747, which reflects that value in the proposed budget. The non-teacher retirement was decreased by $14,494. That also reflects the current proposed budget. $2,900,232 reflects a decrease of $196,438. That is reflecting the proposed budget for that line. $2,900,250, the unemployment compensation, there was no change to that line. Line 100, $2,900,260, workman's compensation, there's a decrease of $272 in that line, that reflects the proposed budget line for that. The 100, $2,900, other employee benefits, there was no change to that line. So these are the changes, with the exception of the $18,000 and the other $3 sake that were voted on at the last school board meeting to reflect the default budget. The judge just asked that we come and make this clear as to what these were. Because of the addition of that $18,000 and the other, $3, what I'm looking at is proposed default budget value, and I guess it's best to look at the MSDS is the easiest way. If we flip back to the bottom of the MSDS, page 3, that will reflect a default budget of $70,948,107. So that's my motion.
I'll second
That
it.
was a motion?
Read that again?
Sorry, Kathy.
Read that, read your amount there, Kim? Kim, what's the amount you just read?
Motion back.
$79,48,107.
It's on page 3 of
Can I
4.
ask a clarifying question?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I was just gonna.
Well, I want a second for the motion to put this
Who
on the
was?
floor.
Sheila.
Sheila, thank you.
So just,
Now you may ask your question, sir.
that number reflects the adding of 18,000 from
Yes.
the 1,200 line, 1,200.
643,
643.
643 line.
Yes,
yeah.
it does.
It also
$3.
includes the increase of the 29,210 by $3.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So the spreadsheet will be revised to reflect that change before submission.
Yes, well, the spreadsheet has been revised to reflect that change of the 18,000
I
already.
mean, I think it falls just from the minimis standpoint.
No, I already
The
revised.
minimis, I don't think it's $5 and it's $70.
Well, I
Don't underestimate
I didn't change, the spreadsheet has been changed already, Jim, to reflect the 18,000.
Okay.
This is in preparation of this
In
motion.
preparation of
being-
this meeting.
And so now, that's fine. Now, the form of the motion, I don't know what Brian's question was, but the motion you made was to approve the default budget as explained and as reflected at the bottom of the MSDSB form in the amount of $70,948,107. I just don't want the secretary thinking that the entire explanation is incorporated into the motion, because that doesn't.
No, no, we should just make,
That was your explanation.
That's
where's
just.
the explanation for the is that?
Could you please, for the
That's fine.
record, give me the motion?
The,
We don't actually have a motion, we have,
I guess the motion is to, enter a default budget in the warrant, on the warrant as $70,948,107.
it'll be on the ballot, not the warrant, because the warrant is gone.
Yes.
On the
Yeah,
ballot.
on ballot,
Ballot.
okay.
As explained.
As,
As explained,
and-
as reflected on the MSDSB form.
As
So you could
explained
say-
and
As explained on the.
annotated on the MSDS
DS form.
form. Prepared form that we did.
Now-
I have
Oh.
I have a question before we vote
Sheila's
this.
seconding that.
I'll second
Sheila
it.
seconded that.
Okay.
It's the actual motion.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but wasn't the judge looking for an explanation of that one-page sheet that's got a front and back, because the board in January officially voted for increases without voting for decreases, if my recollection is correct?
Or stating where those decreases would come from. And now Kim has explained that just now.
You
We
explained,
have that in front of
you
us.
explained it, but I just want to make sure that council is, because I think that's specifically, the two things I thought she was looking for was to make sure that we, I guess, cleaned up the minutes, because we as a board had that piece of paper. We knew what we were looking at, because we started with the meeting earlier, and now she just asked us to make sure that the vote matched the piece of paper. Am I saying this wrong, or?
No, you're saying this right. I think then that maybe the best way to do this, Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, would be for us to vote the decrease in the 1,100 line. And, no, you don't think we need to do it? Okay. I'm fine with whatever way, I just wanna make sure.
I think the way, and this description, and it's lined out, everybody has this, she said it out loud, it's in the video.
Yeah, so.
And we should
could do a
attach-
play, we could,
I don't know,
we could
puppets?
do puppets.
I can.
I mean, we could do it in a lot of different ways. So the bottom line is, whatever happened on the 23rd of January, the judge didn't make a ruling, but she said there's enough evidence to suggest that it wasn't necessarily in compliance and that at the time the explanations weren't detailed enough. So now you have very detailed explanations. You just had a pretty lengthy conversation with the board as a whole about what that default number is, with documents showing detailed explanations of the increases and decreases. Following that explanation, there was a motion to approve based on that explanation and pursuant to the document in front of you, the MSDSB. That's as much as really I think you could possibly do.
Okay.
And, you know, if there's discussion, board members have questions, ask questions, have a discussion, and then vote, and take it from there.
Thank you. Does everybody understand Kim's explanation, sees the numbers, where differences are, where the decreases and increases, and understand the bottom line? Everybody's understanding before we call for a vote. We understand the motion. Hearing no other comments or questions, I'm gonna call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, signify by raising your hand. 7. Opposed? 1. Abstaining? 0. Go ahead, Kim.
I would like to state for the record that I had to obtain an old MSDS form. This form is a 2017 form that I have no access to the MSDS. My understanding is that the school board chair requested that the SAU provide an MSDS form for us. And Dr. Wilson, I'm wondering, do we have a copy of the MSDS form from the SAU personnel that was requested by the chair?
I don't have anything. You mean for tonight's meeting?
Correct.
It was posted. There was one provided. And it was
There's one
posted.
provided.
It was a
Could we
picture,
get-
right?
I'd like to direct somebody to go get a copy of that, make copies for the board. I'm not sure why the board does not have that document in front of them.
Kathy, do you have, is the one that was posted, is that the,
You're talking about the one that Sue Sherman emailed to the board earlier.
yes.
And then we got a new one that I swapped out tonight because we were using the new one. That
The one that
was
I
sent over a
prepared.
second time. Yes,
prepared.
yes.
That's not what I'm asking for. I'm asking for the one that was prepared by the business office, that the chair directed be prepared for our board meeting.
Yes, and the understanding was that what Sue Sherman sent over to me today after 2 o'clock was to replace that one. That was my understanding. So yes, if you even were to go onto the, I didn't update it on what was posted under your SharePoint site. You'll see that there was one prepared. The 2 columns are empty. It just has the proposed budget information on it. That was provided, and that was provided when it was uploaded
So
on
we have-
Friday.
There's an MSDS posted that has just the proposed budget numbers on it.
That's correct.
So we do not have from the business administrator an MSDS with any numbers other than proposed budget numbers on it, even
So
though
we
the
need
chair
these
required
numbers,
it.
we need these numbers put into that form. So, and then electronically
Why?
sent up to DRA?
We do.
Yeah. So we're gonna direct that, correct?
I think you,
I thought we directed it earlier in the week,
Yeah.
preparation for this meeting.
I agree, I think you, only the business office can electronically, I believe, send this up to
I can't
DRA.
even access
I
the
know.
form.
It's all
We
done
know
via
that.
web services.
We know that. So,
The inference, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, but the inference is that the business administrator didn't follow the directive that was provided, that was given to populate and provide a blank one, when in fact it was. The miscommunication was this afternoon, and I can even take responsibility for it, when I got a call from you today, Madam Chair, that said that, oh, by the way, can you make sure that you get this stuff in the packet? I had no idea because I wasn't copied on what was supposed to go in the board packet. So you had sent it to me this afternoon, and the assumption was, oh, we're not using the blank one because you included one in what you sent over. So, and that, there was no explanation. I made the assumption that that's what that was, because it was new information, because what you sent me was already part of what was already sent over the first time. So I assumed that the MSDS that you gave me this time was what was going to go in your packet. So there's no inference that anyone didn't follow a directive. It clearly is a misunderstanding. So I just want to put that out there.
I'm not faulting you, Mrs. Belcher, at all.
No,
Okay.
you're
There's
faulting
no
the business
inference here at all.
administrator, and
There-
that's really, he did what he was supposed to do. I had it, I posted it.
Where is it? Just so
It's
I can-
posted on SharePoint under the agenda board packets.
Okay.
You can't access it because you need to have a password, you're not a board member.
And it's not a completed form, Jim. All it has is proposed
right.
budget numbers.
So now we're
That's
gonna,
correct. Right, right.
let's see if we can move this a little forward now. So we've approved this number. This is the number we want on the ballot. We want the ballots to go to the printers, yes?
So this is really, let me just pause, because all you need to do is you have a document in front of you, sign one of these. Jeff, the business administrator, tomorrow can print off
Populate
the
the form.
MSDSB form, scan it and send it to DRA.
Right, I was
As
getting
long as
there.
it's the same, I just want, just so I can say, because people may ask. And then you will have at least complied with that part of the process. I need to submit something to the court, notifying them what the status is of the matter, and that will, at that point, at least satisfy that part of the order. Okay, so notwithstanding the fact that there was confusion, we have a simple plan moving forward.
So do we need to make a directive?
I'm gonna make a directive.
Okay, easy. I don't think you
You
need,
can-
let's just
Oh, yes.
sign a form. I don't have, I've written on this copy. Somebody's got to, all you need to do is take this
I'll
off.
sign my copy.
All right.
Sign Jim's copy, and if you want to make a, if you want to make a motion, but obviously the only one that can send this to the DRA is the business office. So as soon as this is signed, he'll scan it, it'll go up, it'll get populated into the electronic form and moved along. Yes? Go ahead, Dr.
You want us to
Farah.
sign a form
That's right.
Before he puts it into the,
before it's filled out?
It's right here.
This is
What
not
are-
his form, this is my form. I filled this form out. We do not have the business administrator, even
what
though,
I'm asking.
I'm sorry to counter
That's what
Mrs.
I'm asking.
Belcher, that was
take
directed
a breath, everybody.
to put this out. No, this is, this was a direction from you, Sue, as the chair. I've seen the emails because you copied me on them. And this form was not filled out by the business
It
administrator.
was filled out by the business administrator.
No, it was not.
But it hasn't
Okay.
got these
Would you like me to go upstairs
numbers
and
in
get it?
Well, why don't we bring a copy downstairs then? so
Yes,
we can-
let's have the
Is
copy
it,
that.
Kathy, is it all the way filled out or just part of it?
No, there was one that was blank, and then there was one that he populated with the numbers that,
Let's try to
with
get a
the
copy
different
of it,
numbers.
so that we're, that's why we're here, to make sure we get this right, so.
Why don't we get the copy with the signature page so the board can sign what's going into the
Take a recess
electronic?
and let that, should have to go get it, you know.
I'm gonna have to go find it, yes. Probably in the recycling.
Well, we're under
Take a
court order.
recess?
Well,
We're under court order to finish this. We
Yeah.
need to complete this.
I'm not leaving here until I
And,
get
and
that.
Jim's not leaving until it's done.
Dedication.
well, I'd like
Peter's,
to
take a
Peter's
recess.
not leaving either until he,
I'd like to call for a recess, and while we're recessing, I would like a non-meeting with council.
Second.
Okay, so you want to take a recess of this regular board meeting, and to give Mrs. Belcher a chance
There you
to,
go, makes sense.
and we clear the room.
We can do two things at once.
And have a non-meeting with our lawyer. Jim, are you all right with that, or not? You are all right with that?
sure.
So, second from Mrs. Lowe's, I heard.
Second.
All in favor?
Oh, I thought you were just gonna call it.
That's unanimous. Okay. We'll take a recess of how long? 20 minutes? 15 minutes? Till we call you back. Recess is one of those things, you know, put your snowshoes on and go out,
Fun.
snowshoe a little, and come back.
I'm out.
We'll call you back. 15 minutes maybe. Thank you. Back,
This one's 3 and 7.
back out of recess at 9:50, I believe the clock says.
8:50.
Sorry, 8:50. Time flies.
$3.
Thing about time. Okay. So, now we have the document, we have some more documents in front of us that we want to do some comparison side by side, just to make sure now. Kim, is that what you were thinking?
Yeah, I'm also trying to figure out what this document is.
Which one, what's of this?
There's,
The
we
blank
have two
one?
documents, one's an MSDS that's about 5 pages long, and then there's another MSDS that's 4 pages long.
It only
That only
has
has
the, it's a blank one.
Oh, I see, that's.
Right. That was just evidence of the blank one that we had
Remember,
posted.
we asked for a blank one.
Okay.
Right, so that, put that off to the side, that's really not necessary for us. So now, thank you, Kathy, we have the 5-pager that we're gonna just side by side compare to the document that, Ken provided this afternoon and that I had Kathy copy, so let's see how we're
Yeah,
doing.
the only thing that's different is the
$3.
There's a $3 difference in there.
I just wanna be double sure.
And that is over on the executive administration aspect.
Correct.
In fact, if I think,
Your 18,000 is in there.
it's actually in the.
Support services.
Support services, central and others, 2,800 to 2,999.
Right. So that's in there.
That's the variance, that's the
That's the
$3
variance.
variance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why don't you just amend your prior motion to reflect the amount that's in this document prepared by the business administrator, so that you can sign this tonight, because the $3, in my mind, is de minimis and meaningless.
How many waters you could buy for that?
I know, but it's $3, I'm not even
Hey,
sure
one.
what percentage that would be of a $70 million budget, but it's probably a small percentage.
Okay. So,
We'll
I,
have some change.
I'll make that motion to increase it by $3.
We're gonna,
Motion, can you help me with that motion?
No,
No.
you're
hang
decreasing
on.
it.
Oh.
Decreasing it by $3.
Yeah, but now you have to go,
Where is the $3?
Please
Line
state
20.
where the $3 was.
$3 is in the 2,800 line.
2,800 to 2,999, support
Well-
services and others.
No, you wanna be specific, it's in the 2,800. It's 2,800,
Explanation sheet.
it's in 2,900,
210, a group insurance line.
That's where the change,
Right
it's in
there.
that group, but
Yes.
I'm just.
It's $3
specifically.
difference, yes. So the motion is for the default budget to be $70,948,107.
No, 104.
104.
104.
104.
This is the one that we're signing.
As,
Oh, you're
as
right.
the revised,
Sorry, I apologize. 70,948,104.
I'll second that.
so motion by Mr.
O'Neill.
O'Neill
I'll second
and
it.
seconded by Mr. Boyle to go to 70,948,104.
Correct.
And spell out,
As spelled out on the 2019 MSDSB form as prepared by the business office.
Correct.
Correct.
And just to be clear, one of the things that happens is when all these budgets is that, and I've noticed this, that Jeff carries around the cents component in all his budgets and stuff, and you used to have the accumulation of cents. that actually can trigger these dollar differences, and the accumulation of them can actually add up to multiple dollars. It's not an enormous amount, but it still can cause deltas of several tens of $20 differences in budgets when you're looking at 70 million.
Kim?
And let me say that I would like to apologize to Mr. Dowd, because apparently this form was filled out by Mr. Dowd and also to Mrs. Belcher, who was caught up in what apparently was quite confusing. Sort of put it briefly, there was an MSDS form that was filled out with just the proposed budget. Monday, they received the information requesting that this budget, this MSDS be filled out. The miscommunication seemed to be that no one on our board was aware that Mr. Dowd had done this as directed, which we appreciate, but no one knew. So when Mrs. Belcher got a form that I had prepared, because I was unaware that anything had been prepared, and I knew we needed it, because we need it tonight to go to court for Friday, I prepared a new one, so Mrs. Belcher removed the one that Mr. Dowd had prepared and reinserted mine. So my apologies for making those statements.
Thank you, Dr. Farah. It is very much appreciated. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Farah, for that. Okay. Are we clear on the motion? I'm gonna call for a vote then?
Can I just, I'm gonna beat a dead horse, because I just want it to be said. We already voted on this earlier tonight. It was a $3 difference. The reason we are doing this, again, as Sean just said, the changes, it's carrying, dollars and cents here and there, it makes some little tweaks. Because this is prepared and this is here and we need to sign this tonight to move this matter forward, we're making that change of $3 for that reason only. There's no other
That is correct.
reason for doing this other than this is the form in front of us. We realize it was a minute change, but we need this matter to move forward so that we can file this form, move forward and get ballots done and comply. Correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? If not, I'm gonna call for a vote. All those in favor? 7. Opposed? 1. Abstaining, 0. 7-1-0.
So I think Mrs. Belcher has the forms for us.
Actually, Mr. O'Shaughnessy has the forms. I did hand them to him.
Do you want to send that around for signatures?
Can I ask for just a clarifying question of Kathy?
No.
So typically, they would come in, sign it, you'd post it that day
Right.
on the web.
Right.
And then at some point in time, they have until Monday or the 25th to finalize, which I don't think has ever really been a deadline that's meant anything. So we're submitting this will get posted on the website tomorrow morning. They're going to sign it with tomorrow morning's date as it'll be posted. This will be sent to the DRA so they can sign this tonight.
Well, I'm not really sure because this has not happened before where we're required to post it again. Why would
Whenever
we-
you revised in the past the
Okay.
default budget,
Uh-huh,
which has already happened once this year.
right.
So the revised version gets reposted on the website.
Okay.
So I think this will have to get reposted on the website
We
because it's a
can-
revised
Okay.
MSDSB.
We'll put it in with the election, in that folder. That would
And at
suffice
some
as being
point,
posted.
things will move forward to the
Printer.
printer for the clerks, which,
Oh, and they're waiting.
yeah, which is something I'll notify the court tomorrow that we're really under pressure to be able to move forward, so.
Okay.
And there's a proof process, isn't there, Kathy, that after you do the printer, that you guys get proofs back to look it over, this is what they're gonna print, and bless it, and then at that point, it's getting printed. So then, correct me if I'm wrong, Jim, but we can overlap that proofing process with,
Yeah, whatever you can do to expedite the ability to print the ballots. I'm not sure what I'll get back from the court, it could be nothing, literally, I don't know. So, I'll let the court know that we will need direction so that we can finalize ballots and send it off to the clerks, because voting's happening in
well, we should have.
What's the absentee
proof-
ballots that
But
people are
yes, the
concerned
answer to your
about?
question, start the process of getting the ballots printed
Okay.
with this number in as the default number, and if the court requires a change, then we'll have to figure that out.
Correct.
But don't make a final approval on the ballots until we have a court order.
Don't approve the proof until we have, until I give you the green light.
And that'll come from you.
It'll come from the court or me, or we'll figure it out, yeah. But I'll give you some direction on that
Okay. All right.
somehow.
So you've got a form, and that'll go around for people to sign, should they wish to sign it.
That's what that orange folder was for, if you want to just put those
Orange
documents in there.
folder.
We can do that. If you take those ones, I'll pull those out.
I'm just gonna put the date, tomorrow's date on here.
Sure. And then if you want to put them in here.
Another 3 hours, it'll be tomorrow.
How do you spell February?
We don't want to do that.
R.
Yeah, 2 R's.
Do we want two of them? One for our office and one for you to take, Jim?
No, I have 3 in there for signature.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
She usually does 3.
Three's better than two.
Yeah.
Good plan.
I feel like it
I
feels
feel
like
like it's
midnight.
midnight.
Yeah,
Been here
feels like
forever.
midnight.
I think we might be on a 30-minute time frame.
And I'm just going to clear this spreadsheet, which, one of the documents that, I'm just going to slide this behind the top one, because that will also get posted and sent to the DRA. That's the spreadsheet that
Okay.
Kim had
That she read off of?
The problem,
Yeah,
just
the
in terms
numbers
of,
aren't gonna match.
has additional information. Those are
Sideways page one.
Jim,
Those numbers aren't gonna match.
I took every explanation from the from that spreadsheet and put it on back the MSDS. I don't think you need to send the spreadsheet with it.
Okay. I don't,
Yeah, but does Jeff's copy have all your?
okay, that's a good point, so then we
Yeah,
don't.
these are all,
Yeah,
these
already
are all
on
the
there.
explanations from the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just being extra cautious.
It's iffy. Oh, you want chocolate?
All right.
Yeah.
Very important.
It's on my calendar.
Wax seal.
Black pen or what?
Thank you.
Crayon.
Crayon?
Thank you, Sheila.
Finger paint.
Send it down.
Fingerprint.
All right, that's going around. If not, do you want to move forward, or do you want to wait till it's already signed and passed back to Jim or whoever Jim?
Move forward.
Get poor Jim out of here.
Move forward. Can I move forward? Jim's gonna wait. for things.
Kathy's gonna handle,
Kathy's handling it.
right?
Kathy's handling it from this point forward. So anything else for,
Do you want to take one for the record for tomorrow? And I will just take 2?
We're gonna have one for you right
Just
here.
have 3 just because, just for extra double
We usually
safety.
do DOE, DRA, and one for us, original.
Does the DOE need an original?
I
Well,
don't,
what do you get, are you gonna submit that packet that we had today to the court?
That one. Yes, that's exactly what we're
the one,
No, the packet, not just the MSDS.
the packet, yes, the packet. The packet would include.
Because the packet includes that document with the ups and downs on the budget.
This page, the sideways page. Right, Kim?
Yeah,
has
that's
that.
up to Jim, I don't, yeah, she already has
I know what to
that.
file with.
Okay.
I'll,
She has it already.
I'm gonna keep it clean. File what we send to the DRA, I'm gonna file that same thing with the court. So here's what we sent,
Kristen, is that your
reflects
signature?
everything.
I'm looking at Lee Doobie's. I'm gonna have to start calling him Dr. Doobie now.
Why, thank you, sir. Finally, someone's recognized
Dr.
me.
Doobie, it sounds like a pot dealer or something. Doobie Brothers. All right. Am I all set? Do we have anything else?
Think we're
You
all
get to
set?
go home.
Thank you very much, Jim.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Jim.
thanks for
you.
stopping by.
Copy.
Yes, stopping by.
We're here for a few more hours. You want to hang out?
Going through the Timberlane drive-through.
All right. All right, back to our agenda, and we're up to transportation update. Should have, in this packet of packets.
Actually, we're doing pretty good.
Quite a long set of reports, and I'm going to apologize up front. Mrs. Silva, this is one of her topics. She's not with us this evening. Hopefully she's safe and sound heading on her trip. But she sent me some questions, and in my rush to get here tonight, I did not copy them, so I apologize. They were positive statements. They were reasonably good questions, and I apologize. I'll send those to you, Tom and Sandy, when I get home
Yeah, we're happy
this
to
evening
answer.
or tomorrow morning, and so that you can at least see them.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Again, I apologize personally for that. I did have some family issues, and I completely forgot to bring it. So with that, mea culpa, we could move on.
Sure. All right, well, first, Tom Geary, Business Operations Coordinator for SAU 55.
Sandy Hopkins, Transportation Coordinator, SAU 55.
And we're here as a follow-up from the December 6th to 2018 meeting regarding the combination of middle school and high school buses. We've got some time to do some data analysis, collect more information to help you folks make an informed decision. So, let's see. And I'll read just in case anybody doesn't see the Timberlane Regional School Board issued a directive to combine middle school and high school buses for the 2019-2020 school year. New routes were to be provided to the board by March 1st, 2019. And I'm pleased to inform you that that deadline was honored. And I believe they were posted last Friday. If not Friday, it was Monday morning.
Saturday from home.
Saturday from home from Kathy.
Posted them Saturday from home.
All right. Thank you for posting, Kathy.
Welcome. To be honest.
So here's some important milestones that we've hit after that directive. So as you can see, we've analyzed current data and ridership counts, held meetings regarding site logistics for the high school and middle school buildings, redesigned all 29 bus routes for the middle school and high school, developed an analysis for the proposed changes, held meeting with the Superintendent's Transportation Advisory Committee. We issued a survey to Timberlane parents, and then we developed an analysis of that data from the survey. So the first slide I'm going to, it's similar to what we presented you folks at the last meeting in December. And I'll have Sandy walk through some of this data here based on combining the middle school and high school buses for next year compared to where we are today.
So you have the, I gave you all the route sheets, hopefully you had time to look them over. I tried to break it down in counts as well as times, so you could see what it would take. And so this chart has just transferred that information over. On the right side is the information for combining the high school and middle school. On the left side is where we are currently right now. The only difference with this chart compared to the chart previously is that the previous chart was from first stop to last stop, but I thought it was important that you have data that is including the wait time as the traveling time from the stop to the school or from the school to the first stop in the afternoon. So that's where the times would be different. So anyways, in preparing the routes, my first step was first to, it's like a puzzle, and you have to look at everything you have and analyze. So I had to go more by middle school student counts as the driven data and making up the routes, because those are the students that typically will ride the most. And so I didn't want to go too over. So you'll see most of the middle school numbers on that right side, but in the left column are around the 30 counts for students. And then after figuring out how to divide the areas in each town by the route and the numbers, and then I just plugged in the high school students. So, because we know typically high school students, they don't all ride. So that's kind of where I began. And then, so you can just kind of see with the greens being the less than 45 minutes, and the yellows being 46 to 60. So you would think that the times would have improved, and I kept them as tight as possible, as minimal time as possible. So those are just approximate. So using that criteria.
Move to the summary? Or,
So, what's that?
stay on this one?
Yeah. So this chart is showing the length of the bus ride with the potential of combining on the right side. So we're going to focus more on that. And like I said, it's in the morning, it's from the first stop to the arrival at the middle school, because they have to go to the high school first and be there by 7:10, and then go to the middle school to be there by 7:15. So what that means, in the morning, the middle school students actually have that extra 5 minutes. They're on the bus while the high school are unloading, and then they pull up and go. So the afternoon time is done by the 2:10 release time at high school, because they would have to release high school, get them on the bus, and then 5 minutes later, release the middle school, get them on the buses. So in the afternoon, the high school has that extra 5 minutes. That is part of the route time, okay? And then I had to consider the extra time it's going to take traffic-wise, because without staggering 29 buses, and they all have to get in here before 7:10 in the morning, and we know coming in from Danville Road and from East Road, so there was a few extra minutes. So I really went by the times that we have currently and only added like a few extra minutes, but that would remain to be seen, not knowing what the traffic's like. And the afternoon is the same thing. When 29 buses are leaving here, again, we have to figure in that factor of time, which is also another extra couple minutes, depending on where those buses are in lineup, who's getting out first, making a quick getaway, the other ones taking a little longer. Okay, so I hope you understand that. I know it's complicated, and I'm tired, and I don't want to go too far for you. Okay, so the effects that you will see on here, if you see the column on the right with the red, no, right here for now, is the estimated arrival at the elementary. I have to put that in there because my concern is to make sure the buses get there to the elementary in time for the 3:10 dismissal. So we've worked really hard to make that happen. And with the new routes, there will be some adjustments. And actually, is this the middle school here? Yeah, so there's two. This one's showing more of there was 2 screens for it, just to see the red on where they end up. So some are not really too bad. I'm not worried about, 3 to 5 minutes. We can manage that, but anything that goes down to 3:20 arrival time, that's an extra 10 minutes at the elementary school level for those kids waiting. So I just want you to see where it's at. And these things can be tweaked because we work, sometimes it takes years before you iron out all those problems. I just want you to realize that. So I think basically, hopefully that data, I don't think you got a copy of this because I just finished it, but if you'd like a copy. Oh, you did give it to
Oh,
me?
no, they're in here.
Yep.
Yeah, they're in here.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yep.
No, it's good.
And we can move on to the next screen, because we took this data and kind of pared it down and make it a little easier to kind of see the time changes, right? So as you can see on the right-hand side, that's the combined buses, right? So in that strawberry red color, that is where there's a time increase. And in that Kelly green color, that's where you'll see a time savings. Is what we were looking for, right, by combining the buses. So those are all listed and color-coded. The column on the left is the AM travel time. The column on the right is the PM travel time. And I'll move on to the slide, the next one. And the one in white, there was no change. That was straight 45 minutes for both. the next one. So in total, in summary, we found for the morning runs, you had 8 buses out of 29 with time savings. You had 20 buses with time increases. And of course, as I mentioned, there's 1 bus that was no change in time. Below for the PM, you see 8 buses with time savings. You see 21 buses with time increases. Broke that down further, and you can see the student impact. So we have 348 students would see a time savings, and we base that on the total bus run time. And then 1,236 with a time increase. And then for the PM, you see 463 with a time savings, and then the 1,304 that would see time increases. So it was a unanimous vote at the Superintendent's Transportation Advisory Committee to reach out and get stakeholder input with this, such a big change, right? So we issued the survey last Monday, kept it open till this past Monday, and we were able to pare down the results and put them into the graphs, as you see in your packet or up on the screen. So if we take the question that my child's school bus is consistently on time in the morning, and you combine the agree and strongly agree, we came up with 75% satisfaction with the current busing, right? So that was really good news for us, you know, being in the service industry, to get a 75% satisfaction rate, I feel is pretty good, especially with school busing. Next question was the school bus being consistently on time in the afternoon, and we reached 76% if you combine the strongly agree and agree. I like to think that if you ask someone satisfaction and they're neutral to it, usually if there's not a problem in the service industry, you're doing pretty good, but digress. Question 3 was overall, I'm satisfied with my child's bus transportation services to and from school, and that was a response of 78% between a strongly agree and agree. Question 4, we issued the question, currently middle school and high school students ride on separate buses. The Timberlane Regional School Board is considering combining middle school students and high school students on the same bus. I support this change. We had 57% against the combination of middle school and high school, 25% in favor, and then 18% were neutral. Question 5 is a follow-up, was I will elect to drive my student to school due to combining the middle school students with the high school students on the same bus. And 30% of respondents answered that they would elect to drive their child to school. And we asked this question to properly plan for extra vehicular traffic on the campus and then also in the neighborhood. Now, I'm a member of the Plastow Highway Safety Committee, and that's made up of highway department workers, police, fire, other public works, and town manager. And I did bring this to the attention of the committee on our December meeting, because it was after the school board vote, and wanted to prepare them for possible extra traffic if people decided to use their own vehicle to transport their students. So after that discussion, the committee ended up thinking it was in the best interest to install a counter outside. So if you come up Greeno from Danville Road, you'll see the electronics radar. That also gives us the traffic count, and we'll have those results at our next meeting. That was to establish the baseline this year, right? So if we're planning on, by the numbers, an additional, let's say 250 cars, if we go by the survey results, then, we'd have to plan for that, right? So whether it's police detail or other logistics that we'd have to come up with, we have to be prepared for it. And I did want to just share, so Dean Zanello is kind enough to take some drone footage, because I wanted to share what our site logistics are, right? What our traffic plan is, and how over the years, I feel like with such a congested site that the teams at the middle school, high school, with Sandy and facilities and everybody that works in operations has kind of perfected this. So I sped it up so you don't have to watch the whole 12 minutes. So it will go kind of fast, but I figured it was worth showing, how our operation is. And you should have a map in your packet of the way the traffic flows on the site. So as you can see here, you have the high school being dismissed, all the buses filter out, and all the cars filter out. and then the middle school students board, and then they leave. And, I mean, as you can see in the video, I feel it does move pretty well for such a congested site.
Is there a guard there at that point? No. Yes?
Yeah, there's a standing.
Person there?
Yeah, there's a person
Okay, I
right
could,
down
yep,
there.
yep.
All right, crossing guards, I mean, we have
Crossing guards
two
still
crossing
there.
guards on Greenhouse. So there's one up by, close to the PAC, the exit to the PAC.
Yep.
And then there's also one at the middle school, because we have cars intersecting with buses, where if we were to design a brand-new site, we would never have that. But we're limited to the restrictions on the site that we have. And I feel like, you know, both schools do a pretty good job of managing that.
Well, that really gives a good perspective to the video.
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Dean, so thank you, Dean, for breaking out the drone for that. So finally, I mean, I will close with the recommendation from the Superintendent's Transportation Advisory Committee. And it's our recommendation that the current middle school and high school home-to-school bus transportation routes remain intact in their current state with middle school and high school and separate buses. We make this recommendation based on the following. More students district-wide would be negatively impacted due to longer bus rides than those who would benefit from shorter runs. More buses would arrive later to the elementary schools, creating issues at the elementary level. Site logistics, loading buses would add extra time and traffic concern. And staff duty coverage with a possible impact to the collective bargaining agreement, because we'll need additional staff coverage for the additional time that the students are there. So, I mean, before I take questions, I want to give kudos to Sandy for working diligently for the past few months. I mean, she transformed the whole routing system, and I feel she turned it out pretty quickly. And everybody else from the high school, middle school, the student services for their input, and the elementary principals. So I wanted to thank everybody for doing that.
I agree. I have questions.
Yes, absolutely.
Did you use, first of all, did you use the software that we had just gotten from the bus company with our new contract?
I did not. If I was to use the software, it would have taken me a lot longer. It's quicker for me to type, but I based it on the routes that are already in that
Yeah.
software.
Okay.
So the times coincide with what the software
Right.
brings out.
Can I ask more than one question?
Sure.
Okay. I did like a Sandown. I looked at Sandown routes, right? And one of the routes, well, first of all, one of our buses went from 40 stops to 10 stops,
Right.
which was crazy.
They have the larger amount of students.
Yeah. Another stop went from 34 stops to 22 stops. Another one went from 36 to 26. So, you know, there was basically, really, one bus that stayed the same in the number of stops, unfortunately. But one of these things that I was looking at, and I was doing a stare and compare with what we got before and what we got in the routes. And what I found was, particularly on this one bus, where is it? Here it is. On one of these buses, 137, let's say, 137, we had a first stop at 6:35 and a last stop at 7:13 on the old sheets. On the new sheet, we got the first stop at 6:20, and the last one is at 6:40. So, could there still be efficiencies made on these? Because it's, that particular bus, I'm gonna say, give it 15 minutes to get to the schools from Sandown. If I Googled it, it'd be about 15 minutes, no traffic, you know.
It stops, right?
Right.
Once you've picked up everything.
Once you picked up everybody, so that's 6:40. So I'm thinking that's gonna get us here at the latest 7 o'clock.
Okay, so.
So, to me, this seems that, like, you know, some of these, there could be more efficiencies, that we could push up bus times, we
Well,
could.
These are, they're not set in stone.
No, I
You know,
understand.
And we go from, adding from another to another.
Right.
It all depends on where they are on the map.
Right. Oh,
You
no,
know?
I looked at the map,
So this one in particular, the time before is based on, this was a middle school bus right
Right.
now. Okay, it's currently a middle school bus, so their times are later.
Right.
Any of the middle school buses, their times are later this year. When you convert it to having a high school and middle school, they have to be at the high school before 7:10.
Correct.
Okay? And so this bus, where it ends, is now has to travel all of Main Street, the stop and go if there's any traffic. So yeah, I have to give it enough time to get to
Right.
the high school before 7:10.
Right.
So I have it arriving, is just between the 7:05 area, because our Sandown buses actually have to get here about 7:05, so that they can get back to Sandown for the elementary routes.
Right, but they can't unload until 7:10, correct?
No, they unload between 7 and 7:10.
Okay.
So 7:10 is the absolute latest our high school kids can get to the high school.
Okay.
And there's a reason, I mean, for that is because of the
It's
CTE
a
bus.
CTE bus, they have to be able to bring those kids here to get on that CTE bus. So there is and there's a fluctuation in the high school times on some of them, because the high school buses did start earlier, and now they look like they are starting later.
Right.
Okay, because of the shift.
Right.
Again, in the
Right.
areas.
Right.
And-
I'm just
and
asking
where
if,
they
you
are.
know,
No,
it was the
I'm
first-
happy to explain it, because it's
And I
very
asked-
complicated.
I have to tell you, I looked at that Sandown map and I thought, God love you. Because when I got down here, I went, what is going on? And I figured it out, believe it or not. I actually figured it out, Sandy. I knew what was going on. Because it's the amount of kids that you're
Yes.
picking up at one stop.
It's
And I'm
Cotton
like,
Farm.
what is going on here?
Cotton Farm.
Right. So it's, you know what I'm saying? It was, I did this over the weekend. It was a challenge. I gotta give you that. It's a challenge. But like I said, I think on some of the routes, I think we, you know, it could fluctuate. I think, you know, I think we
I
can make
agree.
a little bit more efficiencies in there. But that's why I was wondering if you
I
use the
agree.
software.
I
You know?
couldn't. If I
Okay.
did, it would have taken me longer.
Okay.
So
All right.
now, I mean, if something, all I need to do now is take this information and put it directly into the software.
Right.
When we go this way.
Right. And then
Okay.
it will all, okay.
And it'll still combine.
Yeah.
And I agree with you, definitely still some things that need to be
Right, it's-
changed,
it's
but
rough,
it's
but-
not, it might change a few more minutes,
Right.
but it's not gonna change a lot.
Okay.
Other things, Sarah?
So, thank you so much again for all the work that you put into it. It's clear this is a daunting task. I have not been in favor of this change. I've been vocal about that. My concern is I'm looking through, you know, I flipped to the bus my kids take, just in Placer, they're on bus 104. And the thing that was most striking to me was the impact on the middle school students. Because a lot of the middle school students right now, they would, especially starting literally right after they would, my house is stopped. A middle school student currently wouldn't catch the bus until 7 o'clock, so this is bus 104 at 3 West Pine Street, but in the new route, they'd have to catch it almost 20 minutes earlier. I mean, and that seemed pretty consistent throughout, that middle schoolers would literally be catching the buses 15, 20 minutes, a half an hour earlier than what they're currently catching it. And that was across the board. Like, I started looking at that trend, and I really didn't see, it was more the exception than the rule.
Yep.
And, and then, of course, the number of times the buses would be late to the elementary schools in the afternoon. It's very concerning to me. I don't feel that that there's a big enough value or impact, time savings, to move forward with this. I just don't see it. It just doesn't seem to make sense to me. And then the ridership numbers are concerning as well. I know that not every single high schooler is going to take the bus on bad weather, but that's certainly going to increase ridership. And again, I've said before, I rode on the buses when they were combined. I know what they're like when they're overcrowded and in sketchy weather. Just reading through some of the comments, it doesn't really seem like the community supports the change. So those are my.
Yeah, I do think, I believe the comments were provided to the board, right?
Yep,
Okay.
it's a big packet
It's
of
a very big
comments
packet,
that were passed along
So-
for us to look at.
And just to your comment on
Yeah.
the middle school kids, it is
It's a big
harder.
change.
It's gonna be harder for them. They will have to, some of them do have to get on earlier.
A lot earlier.
And it's because of, when you add all the buses doing the same thing, the demographics spread out differently.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. No, the work that went into this is truly amazing. But to me, it just, I don't see the benefit.
Tim, question?
So, sir, before you were on the board, you hired a consultant.
I
You
know.
had a study done.
Yeah.
And the consultant showed that there were significant time savings doing it this way. I'm not sure why we are not seeing this and that your information is contrary. And if that's the case, I'd like the consultant back in here so that we can have everybody in the same room to have this discussion.
The only thing I can speak to the consultant, he did what he could do, but he did not do the actual routing. He went by theory, which all of us, most of you, thought the theory would be that it would be better. And I have no problem with that. And now that I have actually, and I love some of the routes, I'm like, awesome, but some of them are not. And that's kind of what you get. And even when we were that way before and we came to this, where we are now, there was some give and take as well. So the consultant did not use the program to make any of the routing like I have done. You know, and I'm not gonna badmouth him because he did what he could do in the time that he was allowed. And I worked with him just when we had done the Sandown routes was the only sample that we had done together. It really wasn't looking at any of the other towns.
So is your Sandown data that you did by hand the same that he has, that he did with the software?
Yes, because actually I did that Sandown run.
Sandy did work closely with the
I worked
consultant.
with
He
him.
worked right in
We
her
did together.
office to
Used the
assist.
software with him?
On the Sandown.
So, but you didn't use it on the rest of these routes?
I couldn't. It would have taken me a very long time. That's why we only got through Sandown back then, because it took a long time just to do that.
Okay, so.
We have to create a whole new site on that program
Mhm.
in order to put these routes in, and everything starts from scratch. So now, if we were to put these routes in now for next year, I can use what's there and just make the changes.
Why can't we start the middle school and high school at the same time?
At the same time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, right now, you're pushing all the middle schools back to get there. That's why they're all having to get on earlier, because they're needing to get to the school 10 minutes earlier, because the high school starts 10 minutes earlier.
I can speak to that logistically. I mean, having that many cars on the campus at the same time would be a problem. It would be very hard to manage that. And talking with now retired Chief Jones, we would probably require a detail until we've worked some of these things out. That's a lot of cars to be exiting one road.
Wasn't the staggered time suggested by the highway and Chief Jones originally, that we'd stagger the time for the buses and for the number of cars coming in? So having everybody have to be there at the exact same time, I would think would be, you'd need to have some detail here if everybody was coming at once, buses and cars.
And again, part of the problem, we'd have to have the high school buses drop before 7:10 and get those students on the CTE bus, which
Right.
must leave by 7:10.
Right.
So if we have now the buses that have dropped at the high school, move up to the middle school to make their drop, and when that CTE bus is ready to go, and the buses all have the reds on and they can't pass. So we need that 5-minute time by the time they drop at the high school to go up to the middle school and wait to get off that bus.
So the
We
kid-
have to get that CTE bus. As soon as the CTE bus is out, the middle school buses can unload.
So the kids can't walk from one school to the other?
That's a choice. I'm not saying they can't.
Well, is your plan to have all the high school kids unload and then pull the buses forward and
Yes.
have the middle
That's
school?
how we do
We
it
would
in the
have to
morning.
stagger it because we don't have enough walkway space in the back of the school anyways. You're
Right.
talking about a 3-4
People
foot
going
walkway
both
with
ways.
a lot of people passing each other, backpacks,
Cars.
And the cars.
instruments, everything else.
Yeah.
We have a strip of parking back there.
So if they all lined up, if all 29 buses lined up, everybody opened their door, whoop, at once. Middle school kids are going this way, down towards the middle school, whichever door they'd be allowed
Very
to come in.
unsafe.
And the high school kids coming up from the first bus in the run, it would be like
All
Times
right.
Square.
I got a question. So you've been around Long
I have
time,
been
right?
around, yeah.
All right, so this is how it was done years ago.
Mhm.
What happened then?
Everybody had duty out there, and it was
But everybody
stop,
dropped
don't
off?
run,
Was it
don't
the
push.
same, but was it the same time? Were they
No,
staggered?
they staggered times.
They were still staggered.
And I think enrollment's a lot higher now, too, though.
No, it's
No,
lower.
it's lower, however, less
Oh, yeah.
kids
Over
drove
1,000.
them too. More kids rode the bus, so there was people coming and running, and middle school kids would be running up the hill to find their bus that happens to be the last one in the line.
You're saying enrollment's lower now than when we previously had combined buses?
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
by 1,000. By over 1,000.
It
How
was
about that?
it was uncombined, not due to numbers.
Yeah.
However, I can see the nightmare of stop and go out there.
I mean, we'll make it work with whatever you decide, obviously, but
It would make sense to me.
it's not gonna look pretty.
Stop, let off the the high school kids, whatever door they normally go in, which is what, the CAF door? I don't know where
They
they
go
go in.
out in the back of the school.
Back
They
school.
might have to change that, who knows? I
Right.
don't know.
Then they'd pull up, and where they stop at the middle school is that CAF door on the side, one at a time.
They usually offload 3 buses at a time.
Right, right.
Sometimes.
But, yeah.
My other thing that I feel you should consider is we do have our minubuses for our
And you've got
special education students. So in the morning, they drop at the high school cafeteria, and then they need to get around over to the middle school and drop there. Probably not so much a problem in the morning, but the afternoon would be the problem that they're picking up at the high school. And then they wait right now for the high school buses to leave so that they can get around that corner to pass the buses, to get over to the front of the middle school buses, to pick up at the sped door there. So that would also be something we would have to figure out.
There's some logistics here.
There's some real logistics,
Right.
Question. So, again, you guys can help me with something here. So, we have the same amount of buses, okay? How many more routes, because you're combining buses, so how many more routes did you have?
Same amount of routes.
Why is that? Because you have the same amount of buses. So
'Cause
if you're
there's-
combining kids,
Yeah.
why wouldn't you have more bus routes? If you're combining buses?
I only have 29 buses to work with, so I'm
I
not
agree.
sure I
No, I agree.
understand what
So-
your question is.
No. Okay, let me explain my question. Maybe I'm missing something here. So the same amount of buses, the 29 buses, have to get high school kids there, then they have to go back and get grammar school. So if you're combining buses, right? Right, we're combining buses.
We have 16 middle school buses right now, and the other 13 are high school. So when we combine.
But if you combine them,
that's
but
29,
so like let's how many buses go to Atkinson? How many buses are in Atkinson?
7.
7. All right. So if you're combining routes, why isn't there like 10 or 14 now? Because you're combining them. What am I?
I
Am I,
don't have
am
that
I saying
many.
something that's funny here?
I
Maybe
don't-
I'm missing something here.
I don't-
Ridership count.
I had to go with what I had.
No, I guess what I'm saying is that because I know you have so many buses.
Right,
And
so
I
I have
think
to
when this
work with
first
what I
came
have.
up, I think a year ago, I think the first theory was, well, maybe you could save money. Well, then, I think then the bigger issue we weren't hearing from different people is, we're not trying to save money, we're trying to get rider time shorter.
Right.
So if you're combining buses, and that bus is not going back and forth as many times, how come they can't do more routes?
Well, now,
102 doesn't do a high school run and then go out and do a middle school.
no, they don't.
They don't.
They do one run.
Right now, they each do 2 runs, the elementary and a middle school or a high school.
So they each do 2 runs.
Right.
They're doing 2 runs
High
now, and they
school
were
and
So
continuing to do
theoretically, if
2.
they're each doing 2 runs, why can't they do twice as many routes?
They're
'cause
gonna be
there's
still
only one
doing
route.
2 runs.
No, I thought you're combining them. I thought that was the plan.
At the high
combine
school,
them.
no,
middle
no.
school level only.
Yeah, so right now, the 2 runs are, they do either a middle school or they do a high school. When they're done with that, then
So
they
that's
do
what I'm missing.
the
Then they go
element-
That's what I'm
then they-
missing. We're only talking high school and middle school.
Correct. They'd only be combining, yeah.
And
middle
we
school,
had
high school.
already showed you with the numbers at the elementary level that we really
Oh,
couldn't
that,
decrease.
okay, that makes sense, because I
we
couldn't
couldn't
understand, if you have
decrease
so many
bus.
buses,
I know.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait a minute.
No, and I
Don't have
should
more
remind.
kids, what am I missing here?
Not so much you're all aware, but, I mean, the folks watching at home too, is that the number of buses we have is dictated by our elementary routes, correct?
More than anything, yes.
That's the driver.
To get them home as quick as possible because they get out at 3:10.
3:21. Dr. Farrar.
Let's talk about the survey. So we had a survey that was sent out, but the board had already made a motion to direct that the buses be combined. Was the superintendent aware that this survey went out?
Yeah.
Okay, so he was aware of that.
Yep.
Was the survey sent out to only people that had children in the district?
It was sent out via the Timberlane listserv for parents.
So, I took the survey, and I don't have anybody in the district.
Did you take it?
Yes. Just to see if I could, because I wanted to see if it was a valid survey, if it was locked out or only available for people
Yeah.
in the district. I know other people without kids in the district that took it multiple times. Not only could you take it if you weren't in the district, but you could also take it multiple times without it locking you out.
Multiple
This was
times?
posted
Multiple
online as
times.
well. So they could have gone, anyone could have accessed the link online.
I mean, I don't
Listserv.
usually take surveys for fun. I mean, I would think that people would only take surveys if it was relevant to them.
Unless you want a predetermined outcome.
Well, it sounds like we have somebody that did that, so, yeah.
Well, I
Maybe
did
that is the
just
case.
because I wanted to see, because it invalidates the survey if you have people that are allowed to take
It has actually, the SurveyMonkey does restrict for IP addresses, so if people took it multiple times, they'd have to put some serious effort into doing so, so. I mean, if that's what somebody wants to do.
I haven't read every
So-
single.
So I guess my basic question is then, the board had already directed that the buses be combined. Why is there a survey out, and I think the question said, actually, I'm not sure why the board's name is in the survey. The Timberlane Regional School Board's considering combining buses, the Timberlane Regional School Board has already made the decision to combine the buses. So I don't understand how that question got in
I
there.
believe that it was in the motion, if you reflect on the minutes, that there would be reconsideration when we brought the routes, and then you would reconsider at the time.
That wasn't the motion.
Well, we can always.
It was in the
reconsider.
minutes, I believe, and if not, we can cue the video, because I specifically remember that we would revisit it in March, Dr. Farah.
I have the motion.
Okay. We've gotten some more information.
Yeah. I just wanted, one more thing for the survey, though, as I can answer, is that it is in the strategic plan that the board adopted, that communication is key. It's one of our beliefs, right? So we felt, when we were meeting in the Transportation Advisory Committee, stakeholder input is valued, right? It's in our strategic plan, that's the plan we adopted, and that's what we're living by at work, right?
Well, my concern with the survey is it was out there publicly for anyone to take, and I know several people that did not have kids in the district
That took it.
that took it. So, you know, and
Did
people
you ask
that,
why, though?
grandparents took it.
I can't
mean,
imagine why
people-
anybody would take a survey
It
and
was
answer a
posted
question.
online,
Nobody
on-
skipped any of the
I
questions
shared
except.
it on
It was shared
Friends of
online for
Ed,
people
but then
Yeah.
it was also shared through, the link was also shared through your press release.
Sure, so let me,
So-
I mean, I'm just gonna look at one of the questions, right? And I know that not everybody that took the survey out of the 942 left a comment, right? But everybody else answered the questions on the survey, the multiple choice questions. So that means people weren't truthful in the survey?
No, I think it's just, I think it's just that
Why
when
don't they
when
have
it's
to-
open, anyone that has, and I'll start by saying, I'm against the combining of buses. You know, so the data set supports my position anyways, but anyone that has a bias to swing a result to a certain way, hey, buddy at work, take this survey for me.
Sure.
You don't have to leave a comment, just fill in the radio buttons, it's simple. It's a click, 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 5 questions, don't even have to leave a comment. And it skews the results, so that's.
It sounds it sounds very possible that it happened on both sides, right? So
Good,
maybe
yeah.
it evens it out?
That's the point, so I can't take anything from the survey.
Well, even if you I'm not gonna disregard the survey, but even if you didn't see the survey results, and these parents expressed concerns at a later date, there's some pretty strong comments in here. Look at the data that Sandy's provided, and Tom's provided. There's an impact, so there's gonna be an impact, of number of minutes. We wanted to know that. You're either gonna, give or take the data, or you're gonna dismiss the data. I'm not in favor of combining routes, and I've been vocal about that too. I was not in favor of this since the get-go. I think the study's interesting. I wasn't impressed with the consultant, what he had to say, but okay, you can always make efficiencies, sure. If it's a perfect day and there's no snow, you might get to Pollitt School at 3:10 instead of 3:21. But these numbers are gonna change according to weather, or some kid's gotta run back in the house to get something, and I know the bus drivers try to be kind to kids, so.
And I just want to make a comment where I trust Sandy to know the most about our transportation system, right? She is the expert in that field, and I'm going to hang my hat on that. So, and I think she did a good job compiling the data, presenting it, and I think we have to trust the experts in their field. So, I would have, on behalf of the Transportation Advisory Committee, I would ask the board, take action to keep the bus routes as is.
So you'd be asking us to reconsider the vote the board made.
I am, Madam Chair.
Is there anyone that wishes to make that motion? Sarah,
I'll second it.
please seconding it.
Can you help me with that?
Consider
Yeah.
the combining of the routes. That vote we took in,
Yeah.
when did we make that
December
in
6th.
December? December 6th.
And can I just add some discussion to it?
Of course.
Barring the fact that, yes, the data set could be skewed because anyone could have taken it, while Sandy was presenting, I was paying attention, but I did read through the comments. And anyone that would have taken the survey just to provide a swing in the vote, their comments would have been, a couple words.
Or none at all.
Or none at all. But when you go through and you look at the thoughtful responses, there's some that go towards, yeah, you should combine the buses, and there's some that say, no, it's a bad idea, and here's why. And I think those that took time to write thoughtful comments, the ones that, there's far more that say don't combine the buses than say, yes, combine the buses.
Here.
In the free text.
In that,
In the free text.
in what we've been given.
Correct.
You've been given
Did you include anybody? Did you
every single thing
Every
as a
single
direct,
one that
that's
made
a
a comment,
direct,
you included in
that's
this
a
packet.
direct dump
Thank you.
from Survey
That's a direct
Monkey.
dump.
That's
Any
why it's a big
any
packet.
inference that we juke the stats or juke the data is absolutely false.
No juking the data. Anyone else want to make a comment? Sarah and then Brian.
To piggyback on what Lee said, the comments that are thoughtful are, and again, there are comments in here that are in favor of it, they have no problem with it, but there are more where they express concern, they express frustration at the idea, they talk about their, the impact that it would have on their students at both the middle school and the high school, where many of them have elementary school students. They're concerned about sending a sixth grader onto a bus with a high schooler. These aren't comments that are just made up. These are parents that are concerned about such a huge change. To not take their input into consideration, I think is irresponsible. But also, again, just looking at this time savings, I'm looking at the number of buses that are gonna be late at the elementary school to pick those kids up and get them home after a long day of school. These are little kids, they wanna get home, it's summer, it's gonna be hot. The impact, the negative impact on our students it's shocking that I can't agree with this. I just can't. It just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make sense to me.
Mr. Boyle and then.
Okay, well, I'm just the opposite. There was just as many people that say just the opposite, but I personally would like Jen Silva to be here for this vote. Jen Silva, I can tell you, did spend a lot of time. I personally did not spend a lot of time on this transportation thing, and if we needed that answer tonight to get on with Timberlane for next year, then I'd be more worried about it, but I don't think we need that answer tonight, so I personally would like Jen Silva to be here for a full board vote.
It's a lot of data to digest. 108 pages of comments.
Counted them?
Thank you for your effort. Thank
No,
you,
don't,
you know.
don't.
But I just,
Get paid for it.
I can tell you that I personally, that's why I asked these questions, so I didn't even realize the whole thing is, that's why I have a board. People do their thing, and I'm more into budget facilities, and I'll be quite frank with you, I really didn't, get involved in this whole transportation thing, because I knew there were several people on this board that were all over it, as you could see tonight.
So that's Mr. Boyle's suggestions. Kristen?
I wanna-
I was supposed to be Sheila and then
That's all
Kristen.
right, I just.
Okay, you were.
I want to piggyback on what Brian just said, because Jen clearly was one of the people that was asking this, and, as you said, Sue, right from the beginning, she sent you a bunch of thoughtful questions and things
I'll send those to
that
you.
should be considered, and I think those need to be considered. I've seen some of her questions as well. I think some of the things that you presented tonight will answer some of her questions, but I know she looked at every single route and really broke them down a little bit for specific questions. And I do think there's a lot that she looks at, and as you said, things can be tweaked. So she has questions on that. One of your things that you mentioned was the buses coming in and needing to stagger for certain reasons, and I think that will answer some of her questions, but I also think she has a lot of other thoughts to ask you about as well. And to proceed without that information and without giving her the ability to ask those questions and to vote, I'm definitely not comfortable in taking a vote one way or the other or changing this board's position until I know Jen has had the opportunity to have that conversation with you and be a part, especially when I come in tonight and find this giant pack. I mean, the routes were overwhelming enough to get on Saturday, and thank you, Kathy, but, we did. We got them on Saturday, and we're sitting here now, 4 days later, and there's a lot of information in here to be considered, and I just think taking a vote right now is premature, as Brian said. We don't have to make this decision tonight as to when this will affect the bus routes for next year, so I think making that motion or taking that vote, I'm not gonna vote in favor of it for that specific thing. And I've always said, I wasn't sure which way I was gonna go on this when I saw all the information, and I'm still not entirely sure, because, I understand we have the survey, and you can say that there's a lot of comments that go one way or the other, but the people that have approached me have all supported doing the combined. One of my concerns with the survey is it went out without a lot of information. It just said we were considering doing this, and you have parents that are looking at, oh, my poor sixth grade is gonna be riding with all the seniors, when one of your first comments tonight was, we did this based on the middle school routes because most high school students don't ride the bus anyways.
Not middle school routes, but the numbers.
The numbers, so, so that's what we're talking about, that you're really more talking sixth, seventh, and eighth graders with maybe some ninth and some 10th.
Well, there's
You'll have a few staggered juniors and seniors, but it's not like you're gonna have a bunch of sixth graders and a bunch of seniors, and I don't think the parents had that information when they had the survey.
But that
And
can go
that's-
either way too, remember?
it absolutely
And the
can,
bus
but-
is gonna be very full.
But people suddenly just get this survey and they haven't been privy to all of this
Yeah.
discussion, and they get it, and their first thing is, my sixth grader is gonna be with a 12th grader that's 19 years old and can be buying beer, and what are they gonna do to my kid on the bus? That is an image
I think we need
from
some
reading
direction from the board on
the
what we
comments.
need to provide for information then. I mean, the survey was a small piece. I think we provided more
Well, I
than
wish we
enough
had been
data.
consulted before the survey, so we could have done that before that survey.
I think we've got a lot of information here to
survey.
digest.
Yes.
Mrs. Lowe's.
I also actually reached out to some parents in Sandown that I know, because let's face it, Sandown's notorious for long bus rides. So I actually went to the outskirts of people I know from Sandown and said, really, talk to me about this. What do you think? Because we're here to represent the constituents. And I'll be honest with you, if I made 10 phone calls and I got one person saying, yeah, I don't think it's a good idea. And that's God honest truth.
Well,
So
I would challenge,
it
get
goes
some phone
either
calls
way,
in.
is what I'm saying, is that, I picked up the phone and called people and said, hey, what do you think? Hey, you got a kid that's gonna be 4th grade or 5th grade going into the middle school. That's scary enough. What do you think of this? How do you feel about it?
Well, I think you might feel different. I'm gonna comment on that. When you say, okay, you got a 4th grader right now, the data we've collected looks like your child may be waiting at Sandown North longer to get picked up because the buses could possibly, if this red data is even close to being correct, there's gonna be some long waits for the elementary kid. So it's not just six
I
through 12
understand that,
kids
Sue.
impacted, it's our elementary kids impacted by this as well. So, Let's stick to whether you know what, you wanna take this motion back and reconsider it, after you've had a chance.
I'd
And
also
they've
like
had a
Jen
chance
here.
to see Jennifer's questions and comments, there was some excellent comments she made. And take some phone calls from constituents. Lee?
Yeah, so I think Brian's idea is right. It's only fair that we wait for Jen to take the vote, so I'm willing to withdraw my second. But I will just close out, and I won't say any more about it till we get Jen here.
Sarah, are you willing to
I
take back
am,
your
I
vote?
just won't be here at that meeting on the seventh. I'm gonna be up at Jazz,
So-
New England,
Why don't we
so.
make it the 21st?
Yeah, I mean,
That's
it's
enough
not,
time for us to
it's not,
consider the
yeah,
information
we
and-
still have
Want a full
time.
board here, then we should have a full board.
We should have a
I
full
would
board,
advocate
yeah.
for a full.
Right, I
You know,
agree.
But, you know,
It's just
to
something.
me, when I weigh, I didn't reach out to anyone like Sheila did. I usually,
busy.
people come, no, people usually will come to me. No one has in this particular matter. So what I've used as my guiding principle is risk versus reward. And in my opinion, I've looked at it and said, well, if we gain on a good route, if we gain 15 minutes, if we reduce rider time by 15 minutes, is that reward greater than the risk? And we talked about bullying here tonight, that risk of exposure during that bus ride of something happening. And if it were to happen, can I live with a decision that I supported something that enabled it?
Okay, so we've taken back the seconds and the motions,
Yeah,
and we'd,
that's fine.
Kathy, would you put it on our, action item list to, revisit this on the 21st? That gives Tom and Sandy a chance to,
I won't be here.
You won't?
I mean, we won't be here on
Be
the
in Grand Cayman.
21st.
Thank you.
We're not gonna vote on this? Are we agreed we're not gonna do this unless we
think
have
we
a full
should.
board here?
I think we should have a full board.
Regardless of who's gonna vote for what?
Yep.
Just that way, because I think this is something that everyone's been kind
So
of,
you push it out to April 4th?
April 4th.
We have to.
Put it on April 4th then. Okay. Now, thank you. We're to, thank you, Sandy and Tom. Back to policies.
They already left. Yeah.
Lee, are you ready, or you want?
yeah, I'm ready. So we already talked about JLCE, so we are gonna look at 7 other policies here. IHAMA, which is teaching about alcohol, drugs, and tobacco. JJE, student fundraising activities. KCD, public gifts and donations. IGEA, curriculum guides and course outlines. IKE, placement, promotion, and retention of students. ILBAA, high school graduation competencies. And KB, Title I, family and community engagement. These are all here for second read. So I believe whatever meeting we brought these through to first reading, we
Yep.
talked about the changes.
Yep, we
Any
did.
comments, questions, feedback, concerns?
So this is a second read. Anybody have anything, or I'll take a motion?
A motion to accept it.
All of them?
All of them. Do I have to list them out?
No, you're all right. So a motion to move these to adoption.
Yes.
on second read.
I'll second it.
And Lee's seconding that. Any other questions or concerns? Not? Take a vote. All those in favor? 8-0-0. Thank you. Administrators report.
I have a few things in your packet, just for your information. You have an executive summary about the middle school gym floor, an update on the repair work that was done. You also have another summary of the partial power loss and the minor fire that was at the high school, explaining all of that. There's also in your packet a new district procedure, DJB-R, which is relative to purchasing procedures for the federal fund purchases, and the SLT did look at that. And then the last thing for your information is the Primex notification regarding the petition of writ of mandamus and injunction relief asserted by Robert Collins and Peter Heath.
So did you ask for this?
Ask for what, sweetheart? Which file? No, I did not.
I also have.
Was I supposed to?
I don't think so. I'm just trying to figure out why we,
Who did?
Who did? Who asked for this?
It's part of the administrative report, so I don't know
Part
if
of
it's
the
always
report.
requested.
So
It's
they
part
could
of the information that we, throughout the month, we share in terms
Right.
of information that we are doing business. We give that
Thought we
information to
should
the
see
board.
this.
I understand that.
Okay.
I'm asking who asked Primex to cover this. That's what I'm trying to figure out is who,
I think they're notified every time there's litigation.
And this is the first time I've ever seen anything like this in our packets, though.
I know the
With Donna?
last,
We've had other litigation that this was in, but it might have been prior to your time here.
well, I know the last time
Well, we've had
with,
plenty of other litigations.
Sue, the last one, I know that you requested it. Do you understand what I'm saying? The
Yes.
last one that you actually requested
On the
that
other court
they do
case,
that, but
yes.
that's why I'm asking if you requested this.
I did not. I don't, if I did, I don't recall doing it, Sheila, but it is good information.
No, I understand, but I'm just asking
Information's always good.
why.
Why? You
Okay.
mean? It
No,
isn't
no,
good?
it's just me thinking out loud, go ahead.
Kim.
You want me to? Oh.
Yes,
I
I'm
would
sorry.
at some point like to know, for the board to be apprised of what this lawsuit by Mr. Collins and Mr. Belo has cost the district taxpayers.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So,
Put it on
I,
your list of questions.
well,
You
I'll
know,
make a
yeah.
motion at a future meeting to get that, I'm just letting you know. I wanna know how much this cost us,
That's the district.
Okay,
the district.
More than
Yeah, district.
can Dr. Wilson continue her report?
More than $1.29.
Donations. We are in receipt of donations totaling $1,125 from the Knights of Columbus. Typically, they do this annually to be used for the donation of special education initiatives. And per the policy of KCD, the donation will require action from the board because it's over $500.
A motion to accept.
A second?
Motion made by Mrs. Lowe, second by Mr. Boyle. Any questions about the donation? We appreciate it, always. All those in favor? Unanimous.
Thank you. As well, one of the things we do very well is to make sure that kids have some authentic experiences and for their education. And there's a request for the student trip to Italy, which would be in February vacation 2020, so next spring. There's information in your packet, very similar to other international travels that you have seen before. The itinerary includes visits to Rome, Vatican City, Naples, Capri, Sorrento, and they would need to be excused from class for 2 days. That would be February 20th and 21st. So looking for action on that as well.
So I'm going to assume that this trip has been passed by SLT.
Yes, it was.
That's why you can see the slides there. We still need to approve the waiver of the days. That's what Dr. Wilson's
make that
asking
motion.
for. Motion by Mr. O'Neill, second by Mrs. Savage, to accept, to allow those. Any comments or questions?
Yeah,
Any
they-
chaperones I'd like to
I
go.
was just gonna say, a board member.
Brian and I would like
A
to
board
go.
member should really be there. This is,
It looks wonderful.
Thank you for another very cool trip. I hope our kids can take advantage of it. So all those in favor of the waive of the days? Unanimous, thank you.
Very much appreciated. And then lastly, personnel report. We have a retirement to notify you of. John Zivos, the Timberlane Regional High School music teacher who's been with us for 21 years in the district, is going to be retiring. And that would be at the end of the school year.
Right, move to accept with great gratitude. Mr. Zivos is an amazing musician personally. He's an amazing guitarist. And best wishes for his retirement and consider for the retirement incentive.
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Doobie. All those in favor? 7, opposed, abstaining.
Did we miscount?
We did.
Dr. Farah
Dr.
didn't raise
Farah
her
did not
hand.
vote. She
Oh,
abstained?
I'm sorry.
She's not voting.
I thought you did.
Oh, I'm sorry, Kim, I thought you hadn't put your hand up. So eight,
Put it a little higher next time, will you there, Fran?
8-0-0.
I think that's all for me.
That's
Committee,
Can I just, on the executive summary, Dr. Wilson, can you, the middle school floor, you're talking about redoing, potentially, looking at June. My concern about that, if we can get an answer on this, we still have a leaky roof.
Right.
So, is it wise to be fixing that floor? I mean, I want to see the floor fixed, but my concern is what are we doing about the roof? Because if we're gonna go spend the money on the floor, are we gonna start having
roofs in the sea.
continued problems if the roof continues to leak on a new floor?
Roofs in the sea.
Sure, that's not the
So-
plan.
Yeah.
So just kind of,
We can make sure that, that's followed up.
We get followed up on
yeah,
that.
thank you.
Any other follow-up you want, like other one, with fire? Cool with that?
That's out, right?
It's out, yeah. There you
You don't
go.
know. Going on to committee reports, I'll start. Wanted to let you know that myself and Sarah went to the celebration of educators put on by the Y, and it recognized 24 educators. The majority of them were from Timberlane, but a good portion from Sanborn, because that's the Y's umbrella. It was an unbelievably positive, inspirational night to hear these teachers being, educators, I'll say, people being welcomed, and it was a lovely evening, and I hope next year that they decide to do it again and that we can honor some more of our great staff. So it was a lovely evening, and I did really enjoy that, so. Other than that, I don't have any committees, stuff for myself, so Brian, anything?
No?
Sarah?
So, let's see, just the other night, I attended the Tri-M induction, which is the Music Honor Society, induction, and that was just an amazing night. They have over 60 students, I think it was 68 students that are members of the Tri-M, the Music Honor Society, and the new inductees played pieces, and it was like a little recital, but it was just such a great night. I was happy to see my youngest inducted, and just the upperclassmen supporting the new inductees with different duets and trios. It was just a great night. I am the board rep for the Assistant Superintendent Search Committee. So I'd like to just kind of give you guys a quick update on that. We have had, we had 9 candidates presented to the committee, and those candidates were presented to us from the SAU, and they were selected based on their qualifications matching the job description that was posted. I did bring copies of the job description in case anybody wanted to review it, just to kind of have an idea of what those requirements were. After we reviewed those 9 candidates, we moved 6 forward to the interview process. We had interviews yesterday and today, and have moved 3 forward to the next stage. And those interviews will continue into March, and with on-site visits and et cetera. So we still are on track. We're hoping to have a candidate to present to the SAU board in April.
Questions for Sarah regarding her report? Sean?
So 9 candidates were given to the committee
The
by
entire committee, the committee of 13.
Okay, but how many applicants were received in? We don't know that.
I don't know that, no.
Okay.
Kim?
Why weren't all applicants given to the committee?
The HR team screened the applicants based, again, on their qualifications as they pertain to the job description.
Are you aware that there are 2 different job descriptions posted?
This is the one that we were using. This is the one that HR gave me today. This is the one that's been in our interview packets. This is this right here is the resume or the job description that we're using.
Could you
So,
pass that down?
of the
So,
15
all right,
candidates,
she's not aware there was a second one, or you were, all right, she can go back and find that out, but you want her to find that out? If there's, why there was a second one, she can do that.
There's a second, there are two different job descriptions.
All right, but she answered your question.
Okay, yeah, so, are you using a matrix to determine which
Thank you.
candidates are qualified and which are not?
That was not determined by the SAU, the HR committee, the HR department reviewed the applications, the resumes.
So, do you have the complete resume packets?
Well, yeah, of the 9 that were presented to the committee.
So, of the 15 that were.
But no, I don't actually anymore, because we've moved to the next stage, so I don't have those resumes anymore.
You're still interviewing and.
Well, we did
You're going
a
to-
round yesterday, we, like I said, we moved 6 forward. So we had 3 interviews yesterday, we had 3 interviews today, and after a lengthy discussion of all 6 candidates, we selected 3 to move to the second level of interviews. And at that point, we gave, everybody in the committee gave all the resumes and all of our notes and everything back to get destroyed, it's confidential.
So as of right now, we only have 3 candidates that are possibly moving forward out of this, is that correct
Correct,
statement?
we've narrowed it down from 9 to 6
Cheaper,
to 3.
cheaper than I get.
And they're gonna bring one.
And then we'll bring 1 to the SAU.
They're gonna bring one to
Oh,
us.
no. Our board already made a
Okay,
vote.
I know that, but she's only reporting what she's
Well-
got for information.
Well, she needs to report back to the committee, and our board has already said that we are not.
She'd be happy to do that.
Absolutely.
You ready,
Thank you.
happy to
I
do
just,
that?
you know, I just feel like it's a waste of everybody's time if you're gonna bring one candidate forward, and this board has already said that's not suitable.
The candidates were interviewed by 13 people. It's not that, and there was a number of questions that were asked of each candidate. There was an extensive interview for each individual, and I'm sure you saw my emails earlier today that pointed you to who was on that committee. There's a list
I
of,
sent that.
yeah, forwarded it out. There's a list on the superintendent's advisory committees. It breaks down who is on the committee. It's members of the union, there's
Okay.
community members.
I did get that. So
Yeah.
you did an extensive interview. So how long was each candidate interviewed for, and how many questions did you ask? No, seriously, so
Okay, just.
an extensive interview?
know it.
How-
An extensive
how-
interview.
We
how long
had,
was each interview?
each interview was over an hour. It included a writing sample. There were 13 questions asked and follow-up questions on top of those initial 13 questions. And then there was another 15 to 20-minute breakdown in between candidates as we discussed our impression. And we expressed concerns and had a conversation about how that individual interviewed.
But yet the SAU board has not had any opportunity to discuss what they're looking for in a candidate. And in the past searches, the SAU
I'm
board has
not
already. I'm just
answering to
letting-
past
I'm
searches.
just-
I'm speaking to my experience and what this committee has accomplished thus far.
Trying to report on what they've done.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Another question of Sarah and what she's reported.
Actually, I'd like to ask Dr. Wilson or Kathy, do you have any idea how many people applied for this job?
I wouldn't know that.
I don't know.
And, you know, the only thing I can say is that when you're talking about an active employment search that's going on right now, you need to be careful about what you're talking about. If there is anyone who's going through a process like that, this is public. You cannot talk about or reveal information that is gonna set you up for a board action. So I would be very careful if you feel as though you need to go in for a non-public for any other, you know, for a reputation, that's fine. But I'd be very careful about going too far down this road because it sounds pretty critical.
I would agree with you if this whole board knew exactly who was the applicants. We have
You're
9.
not part of the search
We're
committee.
not part of the search committee,
So-
none of us are.
so that's what I'm
But this
saying.
board will be part of the board that will actually give
Yes,
the
you will.
authorization
Yes,
to
you
move
will.
forward. So if
Yes, you will.
our collective questions haven't been answered, going along the way, you put all the eggs in the basket when this person is sitting
So
there to
then
be
you-
voted on.
you ask
And
those
if it doesn't
questions.
happen the right way, that person, it was a waste of time.
Well, you're saying the right way. This is the way that this search is going for right now. You'll give feedback. Obviously, you had some conversation today. You give feedback to, the search committee, which is what you should do. But I think we have to be very careful about the search process. And if you're feeling, negative or critical about it, then I think you need to make sure that that happens in a way that isn't going to be as public event right now. It's an active search process.
But I agree with you, so who should we voice our concerns to since we can't have an SAU meeting? Okay, so this is who we're voicing them to,
So do you want to do that in non-public?
No, well, before we do that, I wanna ask Sarah one question. At our last board meeting, we voted that this board would like to see at least 3 candidates presented to the SAU board. Did you convey that to the search committee?
Yes.
And what was the response?
It ultimately, we would see how things went, we would see how the process went. There was no decision made, but ultimately.
Well, there clearly was a decision, because you just told us you're only gonna bring 1 to the SAU.
The consensus is at this point, the feeling is at this point, that it is, we anticipate 1 being brought forward. But we're still early in the who knows?
I have a question, because I'm, new.
Go ahead.
Am I correct in saying that the SAU board sets, salaries, contract, benefits, all that stuff? Am I correct in
board?
saying that? The
That
board
is correct.
actually
Yeah, by RSA, yeah.
votes on that?
Yeah.
I'm asking the question, I really
For
don't know.
whom? When you say set for whom?
The SAU, correct.
SAU employee, well, for
The
the
assistant
top
superintendent.
5.
Yeah.
For SAU employees, it goes through the SAU board,
It does,
through the
okay.
budget process every year.
Okay, that's what I'm
Yeah.
just trying to figure out. I'm reading this, trying to figure this out. That's why I'm
Right.
asking the question.
Right.
Okay.
Sarah, you can take those concerns that
Yeah.
you've heard expressed back to the committee, and
Sue Lee has a question.
Lee.
Sarah, are they incorporating the committee? Are they incorporating personality profiles as part of the interview process and candidate qualifications?
I don't know that I can answer that, in public, in a public setting.
There you go.
I
Well,
mean, I just-
let me rephrase that.
Yeah.
Are we incorporating disc personality testing or anything of that nature?
I wouldn't answer that one either. I would, if you want to ask those questions, I would do it in non-public or.
Talking about,
Any individual.
yeah,
I
I'm
mean,
just asking what,
It's a generic question.
Yeah.
I agree.
Okay.
In public, I'm not comfortable answering that question in public, I'm sorry.
I make a motion to go into non-public under
Oh,
91A
man.
:3.
Colon 3.
Yeah, I gotta find it here.
C-
Paragraph
C
2,
For
C.
C.
reputation of Mr. or Mrs. X.
C. Well, don't need to. A second for that?
I'll second it.
Sean's seconding it. Poll the board.
Mr. Boyle,
Yes.
Mr. Dubey,
Yes.
Dr. Farah,
Yep.
Ms. Lowe's,
Yep.
Mrs. Mockmer,
No.
Mr. O'Neill,
Yes.
Mrs. Savage,
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman.
No.
You're in at 10:18.
I'll have to ask the public to please step out.
Honestly, this is gonna
Thank
be,
you.
that's gonna be 15,
All right,
20
we are
grand.
back out of non-public at 10:27, and we're back on committee reports and reports of the school board. Kristen, anything?
No, safety hasn't met since our last meeting, and, culture and climate, we met in December, and we're still waiting on the, summary
Lower
from
that.
that.
Put the volume down. Oh, it's you. Okay, I thought it was your phone. I'm sorry.
No.
Say we- You're in trouble, Dean.
Again, So we're still waiting on the summary notes and next meeting, so we
Okay.
have nothing to report from that since December.
Did you want to say anything about the Run of the Savages?
Oh, well, I could. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this will be the 7th year. There was when my oldest son was in college school in 4th grade, he was having a very difficult time concentrating and basically being a student because my husband was sick and his father was sick. So he had a wonderful 4th grade teacher, Alexis Vengren, who realized he was distracted and needed something to give him a positive about cancer, which there aren't many positives, but if you can put something together to try to have some fun for the community, she thought it might be a way to put a spin on it and make him feel like he was helping and do something good and feel like he was being a part of a cure and a cause. So she thought we'd throw together a little 5K. She wanted to do it within a couple of weeks' time, which wasn't really going to happen or be realistic. So we decided to do it in the spring. We went with it. We didn't know what was going to happen. It's been a huge success, and it's grown. We're now in our 7th year. Again, we run it through Pollard. We've donated in the last 6 years over $55,000 to the Jimmy Fund as a result of this, what was going to be just a fun little run. It's coming up again April 13th. It's on Facebook, on Run of the Savages. It's on Instagram. You will be seeing flyers and whatnot, registration. It's not something you have to run. It's a 5K around Plasto. It does the opposite route as Old Home Day. So we have people that are involved in this from infants to, we've had 90-year-old participants in this race. Don't have to run it. You can walk it. You don't even have to walk it. Just come out and participate. It starts at 10 o'clock, registration's at 9. Lots of local vendors that jump in to help out. They see it as a great community cause and school cause. And it's a lot of fun, and it's a great event. And this year we're spotlighting a local family. I'm not gonna go into that tonight, but another Timberlane family. So I'm hoping we can get people to come out and support it. Whether, again, walk, run, just show up, buy a t-shirt, or just promote the word would be great.
Come and stand at the finish line and cheer
Come and
them
stand
in.
at the finish line, cheer people on, we have, people stand throughout the whole, the race route and cheer people on. It's just, like I said, it's a lot of fun. It's a good community event. In and out on a Saturday morning. It happens to be the same day as Project Hope, which is another great event, their fashion show that night. But we kind of kick off in the morning, and then, so it's a great day, community-wise, not only our event, but then the Project Hope event to try to raise awareness for cancer. So
What's the date
if
on
you
that?
can't, if you
13th.
can't support our event, try to get there for Project Hope at night, April 13th.
April 13th.
Yeah.
April 13th, check out the website. It's a good thing. It's a feel-good organization to be part of.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We try to keep the registration fee down. Like I said, everything that we raise goes to the Jimmy Fund. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I wasn't
Sheila.
prepared for that.
I have no committee report, however, I would like to compliment you on your annual report. You did a good job. It's really
Thank you.
nice
Tried
job.
to hit the high points. And
You did, no, it's a nice job.
thank you. It's a little difficult because you're doing part of a year and part of a year, so you have to kind of drift. I want to thank Kathy because she helped find the minutes, so I was talking the correct year and not 6 years ago. So
Very well done, though.
I read Brian's and I read past chairs to just get a flavor of how they did it. I tried to take some good ideas from Brian and my own good ideas and even good ideas from previous chairs. So thank you, Sheila, for that. It was a lot of work,
No, I know it was, and,
like writing a term paper.
yeah.
Lee, anything?
Nothing to report on committees, but last night I was able to attend the fan night / senior night for the girls varsity and junior varsity basketball teams. It was a great night, good crowd turned out. They had some nice swag for the fans, and we honored 2 seniors, the team manager, and I cannot remember her name, shame on me, and 3-year varsity player, Sarah Pedalaro. great name.
Excellent. Sports continues. Spring is around the corner.
Come on, softball.
That's right. Sean, anything you want to? Kim?
Nothing, but we still have these non-public minutes here.
Yep, I'm with you.
Sue, can I just jump on the sports comment real quick? Sure. I know Nick brought this up as well. The wrestling team. I wanted to just point out, again, congratulations for them for D1 state championship again. Also to all those that are moving on for the META champions, and then hopefully New England's for them. And but more importantly, they had a season. I'm going off the cuff again here, so I'm gonna
Ending match.
They had a challenging season. They had a great season, a very successful one, but there was a lot of challenges off the mat for them. And there were a lot of meets that weren't as sportsmanlike as they should have been. Not from our Timberlane athletes, but from other schools and other issues. And I just want to commend all of them, the athletes, the coaches, the parents, all of our fans, in situations that could have gotten very out of control. They all maintained their composure and their demeanor, and they handled themselves very professionally. And I think they deserve to be recognized for
Have
that.
those schools been notified of the issues that our athletes and
I would
faced?
bet,
Yes.
I'm only guessing, but I would bet they have been. But that's certainly a question for our athletic director. The boys will be here. They always come, and we will meet them. You'll get to put faces and names and see how grown-up they are now. But certainly deserve credit for a
Can
great
we get
season.
something from the
Sure.
athletic director actually stating that
We
you
get
know
an
this has been
executive
being addressed
statement.
externally?
Yep. Kathy, can you put that on the action list? Mr. Fantasia, just a quick summary of how that was handled. He'll know what we mean.
Yeah, there were a couple of situations throughout the year.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
It's a good point, you know, and if we're ever at an event as a school board member, what role do we play in that? I know, for example, I was at an away game for the girls' basketball team last week, and it was similar to one of those wrestling meets, and I found an administrator there, and I said, hey, you got a problem here. You're trying to raise respectable students, and you need to go up in your balcony and listen to what's going on up there. So, is that crossing the line as a school board member? I don't know.
It's too late now.
Well, you're always a school board member. So.
It's easier to ask for forgiveness than
Forgiveness,
permission.
right.
So,
You can also say it as a parent.
Yeah.
I think you're better off as a parent.
yeah, it wasn't like I walked up and like, hey, please do become my school board.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
you look like a teacher. Do you work here? Yes. You should go up on the balcony.
Should have used Brian's name.
Yeah.
Well, what I think is interesting, when you go to the athletic awareness night,
Yep.
and Angelo always speaks, and he talks about how at the end of the season, the surveys go out to all the coaches and all the teams, and they all rank each team that they've gone against as far as, sportsmanship, all these different things. And that all comes back, and Timberlane, I believe, if my memory serves me, I believe we were highly awarded
Yeah.
this past year.
There's a banner in that gym right
That's
now.
right, for that. I'd be curious to see how these other schools rank, or after, do we get that? Can we get that information? Do we see that? How does that report come to Angelo, or is it just?
We can ask that, but.
I would just be curious to see if, how we're perceived again.
The main point is
with
that our
regard to
boys
that.
rose
The boys, the
I
coaches.
care about our kids. Yeah.
rose to the occasion.
The entire
and
organization.
Yeah.
And-
They handled themselves well.
Yep. Which is kudos to
Right.
the coaches,
Okay.
parents, and them.
All right, correspondence folder, we don't have, the payroll and vendors have gone around. We need to go into non-public about those non-public minutes. Do you want to wrap that, do you want to do other business first? And
Yeah.
then go back into, or other business, so back to other business. Anybody have other business? Sean?
Yeah, I'd like to actually, next school board meeting, I'd like to actually have some time to actually do a deep dive into the group insurance line item, which is 100.290.210. which is in our proposed budget of $10.221 million. I've done some analysis on that, and I have a lot of even more questions than what started at it. And what I'll do is I'll send around my Excel spreadsheets and my look at it to the entire board so that they can have that prior
That'd be
to the discussion, the next
Like
meeting.
that on the
and
next
then-
budget, on the next agenda?
Correct. That's
Okay,
I would
so let's
like.
put that on a list there,
Thank you.
Kath. And you'd want a business manager here?
Correct.
What was that, the numbers again?
100.290.210, the group insurance, 10.221 million.
And if you did send out your sheets, that would be helpful.
Correct.
So we know where you're coming from.
We want that to go to Jeff first, too?
And I'll send it on to Jeff.
He needs to know how to
Yeah,
respond.
that's what I mean.
So as soon as you get it to me, I'll
Okay.
forward it to Jeff. And Earl.
I have a real quick.
Was that it, Sean? Other business, you're all set with that?
Yeah, no, that's all I had.
Okay, somebody else, something else, yes, Sheila?
This is much easier, I promise. When we got this service inventory, I know.
A while back, it's not
tiny.
here now, yes,
Yeah, I think it was the last meeting we were at.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
The very first line, it looks like under terms, there are two separate things there, but you can't see all the words.
Words?
Can you just give us that?
All right, so
at
can
some
you
point?
circle what it is and maybe,
I'm not sure what
I
you're
don't, yeah,
referring to, so.
yeah, Roxanne wouldn't have seen it necessarily.
Last time you were here, you said there was a typo on this. I didn't even ask you what the typo was, but
You have it.
I'm just curious what this
It's in the
says here.
copies of this.
Can you see how it looks like two different?
Well, this is the term, the contracts. This is the term of the contracts. So,
Right, but see this? See the two?
yeah, I
It
think,
looks like there's more words there.
well, I think you're right. I think it just didn't wrap. It's
Right.
probably 3 years secondary, maybe 2 years something, so we can get that.
Can we can
Yeah, so it's just, it didn't wrap.
I'm just looking for that,
circle that, oh,
that one little
write that down
block.
and then give Sheila back her page.
Do you know, it just looks like there's.
Yeah,
like
there
it's
is,
open.
it
Try to
just,
get that
it didn't
scan.
wrap, so, all right.
Okay, you got that,
That's the
Roxanne?
vendor name,
Yeah.
and that was on Achieve 3000.
Yep.
Thank
Any,
you.
is that it?
That was it.
Anything
That was
else,
easy.
other business? Oh, I do, other business. I sent you all an email suggesting that you might want to go to your Board of Selectmen meeting and just go through things, go through highlights, et cetera. Plasta's gonna go next Monday night. I'm not trying to tell you how to do it, I can just tell you how I'm planning to do it, we'll be there. I'm just gonna go through I'm not going through every single warrant article, I'm just going through the budget, the pack wall, the union contract, the switching from Danville to Plastow, of course, the selectmen are interested in discussing that. So those kinds of things. I wasn't gonna go through every single thing. They've seen the warrant. They're good. I did invite, as a courtesy, the budget committee, school district budget committee, just so they know we were going. A couple of them said I might be able to make it, but I'm planning about 20 minutes of the selectmen's time. I was pleased they were willing to do it always. We always do it, or have always done it since I've been on this board, and I'm told it's been done before my time. I wanted to let you know we're going. We have a date on Monday night. I just don't know the time yet to tell my board members. Okay? All right. If nothing else, let's go here to go back into non-public then.
So, can we really take a quick rest break?
Yes, you may.
Run.
We won't be coming back. So, good night, everyone. Thank you.
Oh, wait, Sheila,
It's like a bite, it should be
you want
a
to poll
motion.
and